Hello, everybody. Greetings and welcome. My name is Nexus. It is my pleasure to bring you another Ask Me Anything here at the Wolves of Wall Street. Today, we'll be visiting with the team from SeasonalTokens, a project that is quite unique. I don't think there's anything else in the space quite like this one. Now, as always, the information contained within this program is not to be construed as financial advice of any kind. I'm not your personal financial advisor, and neither is the team from Seasonal. This is all opinion content and informational and educational content only. And with that said, I welcome Polar and the team from Seasonal. It is an honor to have you guys. How are you guys doing this morning, afternoon in your time zone?
Yeah, we are doing fine. Thank you very much for having us here, Nexus. It's an amazing pleasure to be here in your amazing server and with this amazing community. So before I start, actually, I prefer to give the first words to the lead developer and founder of the project, Ron.
No problem.
Please.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Nexus and everybody from Wolves of Wall Street for hosting this. Looks like there's a great turnout, and I'm looking forward to the AMA. I have some materials ready that I can present whenever it's the appropriate time. So whenever it's good for me to start doing a little presentation, just let me know, and I can go ahead with that. But thanks again, and I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Normally, at this point in the show, I would ask the team, hey, anything you guys want to tell to the community to help us get to know you and sort of how the project came to be formed? Go right ahead, boss.
Okay, sure. I guess the idea for Seasonal Tokens, it kind of came about because I was investing in Bitcoin. This was back in 2018 and 2019. And by then, it had become clear that Bitcoin goes through these alternating bull and bear markets. What happens is that once every 4 years, the rate of production of Bitcoin is cut in half, and that causes a supply shock. And then there's a bull market that lasts for the next year, and then that ends in a bubble. There's a bear market, and that's really good for Bitcoin investors because the price goes up so much during the bull market that it goes up more than it goes down in the bear market, and so overall it's a good investment. But at the same time, it does mean that there's basically 1 year out of 4 when Bitcoin is a really good investment, and then for the rest of the time it's okay, it's flat or it's in a bear market. So what I was thinking at the time was that it would be good if just when Bitcoin reached its peak price, if there was another coin that was like Bitcoin that was just starting to rise in price, so that you could switch from Bitcoin to this other coin and then ride the next bull market up, because that way you wouldn't have to hold Bitcoin during the Bitcoin bear market. You'd be able to kind of stay in the bull market by switching from one coin to another. So I investigated the possibility of doing this. It's too hard to do it with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has its own blockchain, and if you want to make a copy of Bitcoin, you need to have a peer-to-peer network. You need to have your own wallet software, your own block explorers, and you need to defend against 51% attacks. And you need to maintain your own blockchain. And Bitcoin is written in C++. It's like 40,000 lines of code, and it's very, very difficult to manage. And it has a whole lot of things like that are complicated that we really don't need. So after I realized how hard it was to do it with Bitcoin, I decided to look into doing it with ERC20 tokens, and it turned out to be very easy to write the smart contracts and to get everything deployed. So I was able to do that, and by 2021. In September, we were able to launch the tokens, and we started mining. And since then, the prices have been evolving kind of as we expected them to. So that's kind of an introductory background. Should I start showing graphs now, or
you can if you want? You can if you want, but it's entirely up to you. My next question was just going to be about where was the inspiration for this 4-pronged system? Because obviously you could have gone with, I guess, any number of prongs for the trading system that you wanted. Why the 4 seasons theme?
Absolutely, yeah. So I suppose the inspiration, one of the inspirations, I suppose, is, so I'm a physicist. It's called a rotating magnetic field. This was invented by Nikola Tesla. Can I paste this on? Maybe I should just share my screen.
You can share your screen. You should have full permissions to share the screen, and it should come right up for everyone. There we go.
Can you see this screen here?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So this is basically it's a rotating magnetic field. It's a way to have to build a device. Tesla designs this device and implemented it, of course. And what it does is you can see the blue lines that are stretching out, pointing towards the 3 coils. This is basically a rotating magnetic field. It was something that was invented by Tesla, and it's an ingenious device that manages to keep a magnetic field of approximately the same strength, but basically just rotating around. And if you scroll down a little bit here to this part, you can see that it has these 3 phases of the magnetic field, and you can see the 3 lines basically that show the oscillating values of electromagnetic quantities in this case. So that was, in a sense, the inspiration one inspiration for seasonal tokens, apart from Bitcoin and the oscillations that it goes through. Essentially, I was taking Bitcoin's oscillations and the oscillation from this rotating magnetic field concept and putting them together into something that was basically a financial system where prices would behave like this, where they would oscillate around each other. So I'll show how the prices. I'll show basically the way that it's done. So it's done by controlling the rate at which new tokens are produced. So initially, when we started mining, Spring tokens were produced at the fastest rate of the 4, and that meant that Spring tokens were the cheapest, and Winter tokens were produced at the slowest rate, and that made Winter tokens the most expensive. And then 9 months later, when the rate of production of Spring tokens was cut in half, Spring became produced at the slowest rate of the 4. So, working on the idea that prices will tend, in the long term, to reflect the rates of production, so that if something takes a very long time to produce, it's going to be more expensive than something that can be produced very quickly. Then a system like this, where the most the token that's produced at the fastest rate becomes the one produced at the slowest rate after halving, that system should result, hopefully, in prices oscillating around each other, according to just normal economic theories of supply, demand, and market equilibrium. We would expect that to happen. And so let's see if so these are how the prices have behaved in response to that, and it's doing pretty much what we expected it to do. So at the beginning, Spring was the cheapest token, and then it became the most expensive token after in the second half of 2022. So just at the beginning of June 2022, we had the Spring halving, and then Spring became produced at the slowest rate instead of the fastest rate. And over the following months, the price, it did indeed basically increase. It became the most expensive of the 4 tokens, basically because the market was reacting to the fact that it was now produced at the slowest rate of the 4. So, and you can see that the same thing has happened with Summer. We had the Summer halving at the beginning of March, and now Summer is basically done. It's the most expensive token, and the prices are pretty much behaving as you would expect them to behave. And so maybe I'll try to show. It's possible that a lot of people have seen this already. This is our trading simulator, but the intention of it is to show why it is that prices that rotate around each other in this way are good. So I'll start it and then I'll explain what's going on. So this is
excellent.
This is for somebody who a hypothetical situation in which you start off with 1,000 tokens of each type, and they have prices that are close to a cent. But they're going to behave kind of like the historical prices have. But this is a very simplified model, so they'll be very clean, and there aren't any price fluctuations in this particular version of the simulation. So I'll start trading here, and then just to show why is it good to have prices that cycle around each other. What you can do is you can trade tokens for more tokens of a different type. So because Winter is the most expensive and Spring is the cheapest, I can trade 1,000 Winter tokens and I get 1,600 Spring tokens. So the idea is that if you always trade tokens for more tokens of a different type, then what happens is that the total number of tokens that you have will always increase. So now I've traded everything for Spring, which was the cheapest, and now Spring is becoming the most expensive token. As you can see, that the value of the investment is increasing. It started off at $40, and now it's going above to $60. So what I'll do is I will trade the spring tokens for summer tokens before the summer halving happens at the start of March. So okay, so they're the summer. I've traded all but the spring tokens for summer tokens, and now summer is increasing in price. And the next thing to do would be, because autumn is now becoming the cheapest token, summer is becoming the most expensive. So trading summer for autumn will get me more tokens in total. So I can do that, and sometime around the start of December, the autumn halving happens. And okay, so that is. So now I've got lots of autumn tokens, and what I would do is I would trade the autumn tokens for winter tokens, because now autumn is becoming the most expensive, winter is becoming the cheapest. And so I won't go all the way to the end of the simulation. It goes all the way up until 2031. But this is just to give you an idea of what's happening why it is good to have prices that cycle around each other. So, okay, so I'll pause that now. So what happened was we started off with 4,000 tokens of each type, and then just by trading them at the right times, we've now got 22,000 tokens. And we started off with $40 worth of tokens, and now they're worth now the investment is worth $166. And even though the average prices of the tokens hasn't increased, the prices of the tokens themselves is staying. It's kept at the average price is kept at 1 cent in the simulation. So the profit that's kind of that you get hypothetically in this simulation, it doesn't come from price appreciation. It doesn't come from lots of people becoming interested in the project and then buying the tokens and the price going to the moon. It's a different mechanism for making a profit. You're taking advantage of the cycling prices instead of, prices that go straight up. So because ultimately, if prices are cycling around each other and you know that that's going to happen, then that's just as good as prices that are going up. You can keep increasing the value of your investment, but what you don't need to do is rely on price appreciation. You don't need to speculate this is going to become extremely popular and the price is going to the moon. You can keep making a steady profit, and you don't need to kind of speculate about future events. It's you just use the fact that the prices are all equally valuable in the long term, because the prices keep cycling around each other. So whichever one is the most expensive, whichever one is the cheapest, they'll keep cycling, and that means that in the very long term, there's no one token that's better or more expensive, more valuable than the others. But in the short term, because they're produced at different rates, they have different prices today. So like at this point in this model, autumn was produced at the slowest rate, so it was the most expensive, and winter was produced at the fastest rate, so it was the cheapest. So those differences in prices are only temporary. It's just because today they're produced at different rates, but in the long term, they're all produced in the long term, they'll all be produced in equal quantities, and whichever one is the most expensive will keep rotating. So that means that that in the very long term, an autumn token is worth the same as a winter token. So if you have the chance to trade a whole lot of trade a small number of autumn tokens for a large number of winter tokens, then you should do that. Because in the long term, they're equally valuable. So basically, that's the idea of the trading strategy, is just keep trading tokens for more tokens. Because if you do that, then you eliminate the risk of ending up with fewer tokens. And basically, the number of tokens that you have is guaranteed to increase with every trade. That doesn't mean that the dollar value is guaranteed to increase, because the dollar values will fluctuate up and down. But it does mean that you have a mechanism kind of staying inside this to steadily build up your wealth without gambling, essentially.
And just like the Bitcoin and the gold bugs who are running their own cycles, I mean, the technical analysts always have sort of patterns that they hunt for. Well, what makes this cool is that the pattern is essentially falling in line with the powers of physics.
Absolutely. Yeah. And and kind of physics in a couple of senses. One is that it's tied to energy. So these tokens are produced by proof of work mining. So this is real energy that's being used. But in the other sense, it's being plugged into the market, and it's working well with the economics of supply and demand in the market. And it has these equilibrium mechanisms that keep the prices from floating away from each other or from going into the wrong order. So basically, it seems to be, if you look at the historical price chart, it's behaving as we expected it to behave, and that means that the possibility or the kind of the desired investment opportunity has been successfully created, because once you have these prices that are cycling around each other, then it is possible to do what was happening in the simulation. And we've only been through 2 halvings so far, but it's going to keep going on for years and years. The mining itself can continue for the next 200 years. And after that, the number of tokens produced will become too small to represent basically as to within the numerical precision. But until that happens, we'll have new seasonal tokens being produced, we'll have miners, we'll have cycling prices, and this investment opportunity will hopefully be there, and hopefully everybody will be able to benefit. So I hope that made some sense, and maybe I can stop sharing and let people ask some questions, or
you're
move on to the
good.
next step.
No, that's awesome. That was great. That was a really cool presentation, and I'm especially happy with how good that looked on the Discord stage. That actually looked really good. Okay, before we continue, I want to remind the whole community that at the end of this show is going to be a paper trading contest. So just because we throw out the best question rewards, that doesn't mean it's over today. There's an event after the best question rewards. So I guess I would pose the question to the team: is there any sort of hints as to what we'll be doing with the paper trading contest at the end of the show? Do we want to drop any hints now? If we don't, that's okay. We can just keep going.
Yeah, Ron, you want to say something?
No, I think you might be better informed about it than I am. So I think you should take this question.
Okay, so I think that what is going to happen in the end would be really interesting to the whole community, because it's actually going to be similar, or actually the same thing that Ron just did, working with actually playing with the trading simulator. Everyone will have the opportunity to play with it, see what he or she can get as a result from the trading. It's actually free, so there is no risk of loss or something like that. The whole idea is to learn better the concept, and if you have any questions after that, I think they'll help you even more to understand the whole concept, because like Nexus, you said in the beginning, this is a very innovative idea and project, and I suppose it may be a little bit more complex for most people to understand it from the first look.
That's completely true. I couldn't agree more. All right, gang. Diving right into my docket. Seasonal Tokens supports mining as well as trading, giving crypto enthusiasts a diverse range of means to get involved in the project. Now, I bring up mining because some Ethereum miners, in particular, feel like they were painfully targeted by recent changes to that network's validation mechanisms. In the future, does the team at Seasonal Tokens plan on making any future substantive changes to the system or the tokenomics?
That's a great question. I'm actually quite happy to be able to give this answer. No, even if we wanted to, we couldn't change this. The smart contracts have been deployed and they're unchangeable. They have no governance. So one of the kind of criteria, we wanted to basically make this into as ideal an investment as possible. So we wanted them to be commodities, like Bitcoin, like gold. We didn't want them to be more like, FTX's coin, where it's issued by a corporation and it's a corporate liability and it's a security. And you're basically, when you buy these things, then you're kind of investing in a business rather than buying a commodity. So what we did was we made it so that we ourselves have no special role. Everybody is on an equal footing. There is no way to govern the tokens. There's no the contracts can't be controlled in any way. Everybody has the same powers as everybody else. So that means that even the members of our team, if we want to get tokens, we need to buy them or we need to mine them. And nobody got any tokens for free. Nothing was kind of there was no ICO. There was no pre-distribution. Every
no
token
white
that exists
list
has been mined. Exactly, no whitelist. Yeah, so by doing that, I think we've managed to make something that's neutral. There are no preferred investors. Everybody's on an equal footing, and if that's the way we want it to be, because if we had put ourselves into a privileged position and given ourselves like governance powers over the tokens, for example, it wouldn't have been as good an investment. It would have been more like investing in a few people and their project, or investing in a team. Whereas this way, the tokens are completely neutral. If you're buying the tokens, you're not privileging one investor over another. You're not actually giving money to a group of people to run a business. You're buying a commodity that you expect to become scarcer later on and to hold its value because of that, and also so that you can take advantage of these cycling prices.
Yeah, if I can jump in, Rowan, and
please.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll share my own experience. So this is Voldemir. I work within the Seasonal Tokens project. So I'll just share my story with Seasonal Tokens. So Nexus, what happened to me, the reason why I'm here today is I accidentally met Rowan on the Seasonal Tokens Discord 1.5 years ago. And I just chatted with him, and he was, okay, I'm going to be forced to say good things about Rowan, but that's okay.
No, please keep them to a minimum.
Oh, Bowie.
I will keep them to a minimum. So I will say just one thing. Unfortunately, I wish the chat was still there. It was erased. But I had a chat with Rowan for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And when chatting with him, he told me about mining seasonal tokens. So he told me, you rent a GPU and you can start mining and you can start making rewards within 5 days of your GPU rental. And the main thing I saw in Rowan, it was that he was trustworthy. So I actually went. I had no idea what mining is. I've been into crypto for maybe 2 months, so I have zero clue about anything. But what I know is people, because I work as a mentor and people is my area of expertise. So I trusted Rowan. I rented my first GPU and I started mining. So just to reaffirm what Rowan was saying, no one of us, I'm part of the team, but no one of us got free money. So I invested in a GPU, then I invested in a second GPU. Then a couple of months later, the big guys came, the rig guys came, and we were forced out of mining. But that was my experience. And since 1.5 years, I've been buying regularly, just like anyone else can buy in the project. So just a small story to share about my personal journey with the project.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Very informative.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I get more into sort of supply mechanisms and comparison, I wanted to sort of interrogate a little bit more the spiritual origins of this project, because in our chats we talked a little bit about Islam. How did Islam influence this project?
Okay, so maybe I can answer that. So I was working in finance. Just up until 2016, I was working in finance. I was working as a quant for one of the largest proprietary trading firms in the world, and my specialization there was in automated strategies for trading equities. So essentially, we had bots essentially set up to trade on the stock market, the major European exchanges, and looking at predictable events and predictable patterns in the price movements and how to capitalize on them through automated trading. But while I was there, I was also basically given a good education in finance generally. And one of the big things today is Islamic finance. It's massive. It's trillions of dollars, and there's no way you can't ignore it. And another thing that was kind of conscious to me when I was coming up with the seasonal tokens idea was that if it's not compatible with Islamic finance, it's not for everyone, and that's shutting out like a huge chunk of humanity from accessibility to the project. It should be for everyone, and making it compatible with Islamic finance doesn't do any harm to anybody. In fact, it's good, because when I was thinking, okay, how can I make this system as compatible with Islamic finance as possible, I realized that the principles of Islamic finance are very reasonable. You want to reduce risk. You don't want to be gambling. You don't want to be speculating about future events. And another aspect of it that was important is that you don't want to be inflicting a loss on other traders to make your profit. So these are basically ethical principles that are good in general. Islamic finance is what requires them, but they're also good requirements for any financial system or any financial product. So I set out to kind of find out. I kind of investigate how much could I actually do this? Can I really? How much can I eliminate risk, for example? So in order to eliminate risk, I needed the prices to be reliably cycling around each other, not having one of them wander away from the other ones, because if the prices keep cycling around each other, then you can have this rule of always trade tokens for more tokens of a different type. So never trade tokens for fewer tokens. And this basically eliminates the risk of making a loss measured in tokens. And that's a big component of like compatibility with Islamic finance. So that's one of them. Another aspect of it is that in Islamic finance, you don't want to get something for nothing. It has to be kind of productive work that you're doing. And so when people are trading tokens for more tokens of a different type, with seasonal tokens, they're not actually getting something for nothing. It may look like that in the simulator because it's all going so quickly, and the small balance becomes a big balance so quickly. But what happens in real life is that after a halving, the token whose rate of production was cut in half, that becomes unprofitable to mine. So the same thing happens with Bitcoin. Next year, there's going to be a cut in the rate of production of Bitcoin, and a lot of Bitcoin miners are going to go bankrupt after that. And the reason is that when a halving happens, the cost of production doubles, but the price doesn't double. So that means that overnight it becomes unprofitable because it costs more to produce a Bitcoin after halving than you can get by selling that Bitcoin. So miners just turn off their mining machines, and a lot of them go bankrupt. But what happens with seasonal tokens is that, for example, after the spring halving in June of 2022, spring was still the cheapest token, but it was the hardest token to produce. It was the most expensive token to produce. So that meant that it became unprofitable to mine spring tokens. So what the investors did was they traded other tokens for spring tokens. So people who had winter tokens traded them for spring, and they got more tokens in total by doing that, but they also pushed up the price of spring. And so what they were doing by doing this, by pushing up the price of spring, was they were restoring the profitability of mining spring. So what happened after the spring halving was that there was a glut of cheap spring tokens on the market that were left over from the previous era when spring was plentiful, and the market prices didn't reflect the fact that spring was now the most difficult token to produce, and it was produced at the slowest rate, and it was going to become the scarcest token, and the market prices were still reflecting the previous era of plentiful spring tokens. And that was a problem for the miners, because with all of these cheap spring tokens on the market, they weren't able to mine spring tokens profitably. And what the investors did when they traded tokens for more tokens was they took all of those cheap spring tokens off the market, and they allowed the market prices to reflect the new reality that spring was now the most difficult token to produce. And that made it profitable for the miners to mine spring again. So what the investors are doing when they trade tokens for more tokens is helping the miners. They're kind of helping the prices to reflect economic realities, and the miners need the prices to reflect those economic realities in order to be able to mine most efficiently. So that means that you're doing productive work in a certain sense. You're providing a valuable service to the miners when you trade tokens for more tokens, and that means that you're legitimately earning the tokens that you get. It's not you're not getting something for nothing. And another important thing about that is that you're not taking tokens from other traders. So in normal trading, if you're trading equities, for example, or stocks, then it's a zero-sum game, and for every profit, there's somebody else is taking a loss. But with seasonal tokens, that's not the case. What happens is new tokens are produced by the miners at different rates, and then by trading tokens for other tokens, the investors are able to earn a share of those newly produced tokens, and they don't have to inflict a loss on other people. So essentially, it was when it came to Islamic finance, it came down to satisfying a list of very reasonable ethical requirements. But it was important to kind of think through the system, figure out how they could be satisfied, and basically implement it ethically, because we really do want this to be something that's going to be around for 200 years. We want it to be successful in the long term, and we want to basically do it the right way. So yeah, I think I hope that answers the question about the Islamic.
Yes.
Oh, but also,
absolutely.
Just some news about that is that we recently got our official Sharia certification, which was great. So one of our new team members, I don't know if he's here today, he was able to put us in contact with the Sharia governance board of another project, and they did an initial screening of our project, and they thought it was good enough to pass on to an auditor, and the auditor completed a full audit, and then we passed it, and they gave us a certification. So now we're certified as from the beginning. I kind of wanted to make it comply with Islamic finance. For the first year and a half, I didn't even think about Islamic finance again, and then essentially we got a new team member, Zahid, and he pointed out, hey, this is compatible with Islamic finance, and I said, yeah, that was how it was designed, but I completely forgotten about it. And then he's, no, this is important. Let's get a certification. Let's present it to the Islamic finance community, that they will have an interest, that they're limited in the number of cryptocurrency projects that they can invest in, precisely because so many of them aren't Islamic finance compatible. So he was right. It was a great move to make, and I'm very glad that we went in that direction.
It's definitely, the ethics especially ring very strongly with me as somebody who cares a lot about uplifting the community and the unbanked, and trying to make sure that everyone has a fair shot using the same tools. That really resonates with me, even if I'm like your local resident money lending Western capitalist who absolutely, like, I don't personally operate according to the rules of Islamic finance myself, but I have a lot of respect for it. And I have a lot of admiration for the folks who can run businesses that are ethical according to those principles, because it almost, in a certain sense, feels anti-capitalist, but in a good way, if you catch my drift.
I know exactly what you mean. So yeah, when I was working in finance, you just get, the compound interest is so deeply like woven into the Western financial system. You can't even think about finance without thinking about compound interest.
The community is sick of me talking about it, I'll tell you. Like they're absolutely sick and tired of me talking about compounding interest.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess the thing is, that was the one thing that was, in a sense, it's the strictest requirement in Islamic finance, but it was the easiest one for us to satisfy, because when you just have mining of tokens and trading of tokens, there's no borrowing involved at all. So there's no compound interest automatically. That was very easy to satisfy. So, but yeah, definitely, it's very hard to, from a Western perspective, to look at Islamic finance and think, how can that operate? Because surely compound interest has to underlie everything. But it turns out that it doesn't, and it's just a Western perspective.
All right. Well, let's get into my deep cuts then. That actually covers my one of my questions, just demolishes it. All right, moving on. Seasonal token trading system is most accurately used to reference the trading value of the tokens to each other, i.e. trading spring into summer when it's appropriate to do so. Why specifically, besides, I guess, the physics connection, did you guys choose to value the tokens most accurately in relation to each other rather than in exchange to fiat currency or Ethereum or Bitcoin?
Right. So the ultimate answer is that we just don't have the ability to control the prices of the tokens with respect to anything else. Like with the prices in US dollars, for example, that's going to depend on how much interest there is in the project. When there's more interest in the project, the prices will go up, and when the people are buying, the prices will go up in dollars, and when they start selling, then the prices will go down. And we can't. It would be nice if we could guarantee that the prices of the tokens in dollars would always increase, but we know that's not going to be the case. Sometimes they'll increase, sometimes they'll decrease, and it's really beyond our control. There are all of these other events that play into that, like interest rate decisions and the state of the economy and market sentiment. Those things are beyond our control. But what's kind of within our control is the rate at which tokens are produced. Well, it's not in our control anymore, but when we were designing the system, then that was something that could be specified in advance. So the price of the question of like how many spring tokens is a summer token worth. That's something that doesn't depend on the state of the economy. It doesn't depend on interest rate decisions. It doesn't depend on anything outside the seasonal token system. So that means that it's possible to have it be a very clean and carefully controlled variable, kind of like a magnetic field inside Tesla's rotating magnetic field device. So it was something that we were able to control. In order to make prices that cycle around other prices, we needed basically all of the 4 prices to be inside the same system and produced this way. If there was something else like US dollars as one of those prices, it would be behaving in a way that would be uncontrollable, and we wouldn't be able to guarantee that the prices would cycle around each other. So in that sense, it was just, we did it because it was the only way we could do it. If somebody could do this with dollars, if somebody could make something like the euro or some other currency, if they could make a currency that just very reliably cycled around the dollar in price, then you could do this with US dollars and that currency. And a lot of people would do that because that would be a huge opportunity for profit. But but basically prices measured in dollars are something, they're basically uncontrollable, and so we have to basically make a system in which it's possible to do this, but it's kind of isolated from the outside world.
That leads directly into my next question, which is sort of a more nuanced security question surrounding the mechanisms of the cycle, as it were. I want to ask it because, assuming that the market continues along the sort of typical crypto halving cycle that we're all used to, much like your project has its own sort of seasonal cycle, a system like this, once it's out in the wild, as we've said several times here, it needs no controller. We don't need a company to run it. So my question is, what would happen if the proof of work algorithm or the supply generated by the proof of work algorithm fell into a state of imbalance, either through the miners or the traders? Would there be any mechanism or means by which the team could reestablish a balance or take control?
What we could, so I guess, let me think about what exactly the scenario is.
I had to come up with it. It's a tricky one.
Yes and no in a certain sense. I mean, if everybody else in the world just stopped mining, we would continue mining. I would continue mining. I've got like a few miners that I've kept going all along. So the rate at which the mining power isn't going to drop to totally zero. And if the people who are currently mining decide that they find some other project more interesting and stop mining, then it's okay. That doesn't mean that tokens won't be produced anymore. It just means that it will be fewer people who are mining. But when people stop mining, when the total mining power decreases, the difficulty of producing the tokens also decreases. So there's a difficulty adjustment algorithm that's built into the smart contract, and that controls the rate at which tokens are produced and keeps it close to 1 reward every 10 minutes. And a reward has basically approximately 100 tokens of each type in the reward. So we have essentially the rate at which the tokens are produced is kind of kept constant, so that if we have a big influx of new mining power, then the difficulty increases to match the new mining power. And if there's an outflux of miners and the mining power decreases, then the difficulty decreases to match the lower mining power. So the economics of I suppose it's economics. Yeah, the economics of production of the tokens it comes from Bitcoin, and we're basically copying what Bitcoin did, and it keeps it very stable, and it means that it doesn't really matter how much mining power there is. The rate at which the tokens are produced will always be the same. So from the mining point of view, it can't really get unbalanced. What can happen is you could have this happened, for example, when the people started to use field programmable gate arrays, FPGAs, specialized circuits for mining. When they introduced those, they were about 100 times more efficient than graphics cards, and we had essentially a brief burst in when tokens were being produced more rapidly than usual, because there was suddenly a new technology that was being used to produce them that was so much faster than anything that had been used before. and we had hundreds of thousands of tokens that were produced within the course of a few days. But then after that, the difficulty increased, and then it settled down, and it went back to the original whatever rate at 1 reward every 10 minutes. So it has a stability mechanism in there. It's fairly robust, and I don't think it's ever happened with any proof of work token that's produced, or coin that's produced this way, that there's been serious problems with the rate of production. So
Example, there's only one case I can give you, and that is the case.
Litecoin? Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
The case of Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, wherein the mining algorithm was hijacked by a malicious miner who was posting essentially endless empty blocks as a way to sort of take over the chain and make it useless.
I think I might know who that was. I'm so sorry. I won't name names, but I've been in the Bitcoin community for a while, and the thing is that with Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, they all use the same mining algorithm.
That's right.
But the thing is, that means they all use the same mining equipment, and that means
that's right.
Basically, if you're a big Bitcoin miner, you have the power to squash these other blockchains, because you can do a 51% attack. This is basically what it is. So just for people who don't know, a 51% attack is where if you have more mining power if you have more than 51% of the mining power for a particular proof of work blockchain, then that means that you can build the longest chain and refuse to include anybody else's blocks in that chain. So you can basically stop the blockchain from censoring transactions. And I know a couple of people on the Bitcoin core team who have done this in the past to other coins just for their own amusement. And I think there's a lot of hostility towards Craig Wright and towards Bitcoin SV. So it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see some of these people getting up to, in Ireland we would call it devilment. So this is just kind of irresponsible and kind of cheeky and mischievous behavior. But yeah, I could see that happening definitely.
All right, well, I got only one more question before I go into the community, and let me just tell you, they're not going easy today. You guys have it hard. So okay. I always try to tee them up with my sort of easy questions to get y'all talking and revealing the meat of the project, but they're gonna chew on the bones. So that's how it works here. My last question before community question time. Assuming that the balance is kept and the cycle goes as engineered and intended, where do you guys foresee this going from here?
So in the very long term, I think so I suppose maybe one way to think about it is that how does it differ from Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is kind of like a world-changing thing. It's kind of forcing the world to transform its conception of money and how commerce is done, how transactions are done, and so on. So Bitcoin is like a rocket. It's taking off, and it's just there's no end in sight for it, essentially escalating in price and having continued whatever downstream enormous effects on the way that finance in general works. So seasonal tokens isn't as dramatic as that. What it is instead is it's a more reliable. It's intended to be a more reliable investment option where you can basically build wealth without speculating and without risking a loss measured in tokens and so on. So it's basically a safer and a more stable way to accumulate wealth over time. The other thing is that I think you can think of it more like a helicopter. It's not going to the tokens aren't going to increase in price so much that they go into the trillions of dollars and destabilize the world system and force all the governments in the world to panic and react in some to all of their power being taken away by some new technology.
You heard it here, CIA. These guys aren't trying to take out the government.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think of it like a helicopter rather than a rocket, because what's going to happen, I think, is that seasonal tokens, their prices will rise, but not forever, and not continually escalating upwards and upwards at a more at a destabilizing rate that kind of threatens the stability of the financial system. The idea is that they will go up, but then it will start hovering once it reaches a price level at which it's a very competitive investment compared to other investments. So I think what they can become, I think, is kind of a reference investment. At the moment, the reference investment for that's used as a benchmark for all other investments as US Treasury bonds. And that's kind of considered the risk-free investment option. So I think what seasonal tokens can do is they can provide in the future, like, I don't know, maybe 5 years from now or 10 years from now, if they get integrated into the existing financial system the same way that Bitcoin is being integrated today. I think they can have a role that's similar to the role that US Treasury bonds have today. They can be a reference investment where you know that you've eliminated the risk of loss measured in tokens in this case. But once you've done that, you could say, right, measured in tokens, there's zero loss, but there is profit. So the number of tokens you have increases and doesn't decrease. And this is kind of, it's an investment that makes a return without risk of loss, at least measured in tokens. And so I think that can become a stable reference kind of investment within the system. It's not going to suck all of the money out of everything else. Instead, it's going to be something that when somebody in a large asset management company, for example, has money that they want to allocate into something, and they have the requirement that, okay, this money has to be invested in something that does produce a return and that is low risk, so on, that some fraction of that would be allocated into seasonal tokens just because it's a suitable investment, for that purpose. So I think that there's a chance for seasonal tokens to be traded on the big exchanges in exchange traded funds, like the kind of thing that BlackRock is applying for right now. And I think there's a role for it to be there kind of within the investment universe. And I think it will rise and then it'll reach a kind of a steady state. And the reason why you don't want the price to continue going up forever and destabilizing the economy, because it's not from price appreciation that investors in seasonal tokens are intending to make their profit. It's by trading tokens for more tokens over time. So you don't need the prices to keep going up. In fact, that's the point of the simulator, is to show that even if the average price is kept at 1 cent, you can still make these returns over time just by trading tokens for more tokens. So I think it's not going to be destabilizing. I think it's going to be kind of it's going to find a niche inside the investment market, and I think it's going to be a solid niche. It'll be a respectable position because of the fact that it has this risk eliminating feature. So I hope that makes some sense.
All righty. Well, with that, I don't know if I'm going to get through them all. Oh my gosh. The community question docket is perhaps the most substantive questions from the community I've seen yet. So
wow.
My compliments to the seasonal team. Y'all really brought it out today. We're going to start first come, first serve, as always, with Lucy, who asks, why should I invest in seasonal tokens and not Bitcoin?
That's a great question. I mean, if you want to invest massive amounts of money, like if you have $10 billion right now, then you could spend that on Bitcoin and it won't make the Bitcoin price budge that much. So if you want to invest massive amounts of money, then you would put it into Bitcoin right now. It would make no sense to invest $10 billion into seasonal tokens right now, because what happens right now is that they're still produced at a very fast rate. There's an inflation rate of about 40% a year, which means that you can't expect scarcity for seasonal tokens yet. We're in the early stage when the tokens are intentionally being produced at the fastest rate that they ever will be, and that means that if the price goes up because somebody buys a lot of tokens, it's just going to go down again the next month. So there's about 500,000 tokens of each type produced every month, and if you buy 1 million tokens this month, you will push the price up temporarily, but next month there's going to be another 500,000 tokens dumped onto the market and the price is going to go back down. So there are different kind of investment styles. If your intention is to have something that's going to be very scarce in the future and to get it today at a very low price, you can do that with seasonal tokens, and you can't do that with Bitcoin right now because the price of Bitcoin has already gone so high that it's $500 billion, and by the end of next year it could be $2 trillion. So if you want to get if you want to buy 10% of all the Bitcoins that will ever exist, you can't do that. That's just it's too expensive for anybody, even for the largest corporations to do that. But if you want to buy 10% of all the seasonal tokens that will ever exist, that's something that you could conceivably do. You can do that, over the next few years, and you can have basically a significant fraction of all the seasonal tokens that will ever exist, just because the prices are intentionally low right now because they're being produced so quickly. So just to give an example, in 45 years, there's only going to be about 1 token of each type produced every day by mining. And today there's about 10,000 tokens of each type produced by mining. So the reason for having it that way is that people today have the opportunity to get 10,000 times as many tokens as people in the future will be able to get for a small amount of money. And as the rates of production get smaller and smaller over time, then there's going to be scarcity. We can expect that to put upward pressure on the price. And so people today who invest in seasonal tokens are in a very good position compared to what it's going to be like in the future, and also compared to the opportunities that Bitcoin can provide today. Because Bitcoin is a rocket, but it's already gone to the moon, and its upside potential is limited by the size of the world economy. Because there's only maybe the world economy might be, say, $60 trillion, and Bitcoin is already getting into the $1 trillion range, and it's not possible for Bitcoin to go up in price by a factor of 1,000, because then it will be worth more than the entire Earth. So, but whereas with seasonal tokens, there's plenty of upside room for that to happen, and there's plenty of time for it to happen.
Awesome. Lucy's second question: are there any minimal requirements to mine seasonal tokens? Let's assume electricity comes at zero cost.
If electricity comes at zero cost, then there's no problem at all. Then you can mine with a graphics card. So what you would want is an NVIDIA graphics card, a good one. But the truth is that you can't really neglect the cost of electricity. It's the dominating factor, and unless you have free electricity, it's not competitive to mine with graphics cards. You have to buy a field programmable gate array. So there's a website called hashaltcoin.com, and they sell a range of miners called black miners, and these are basically the most efficient miners for the tokens. But even if you have one of these miners which are very efficient, you also need to live somewhere where the electricity is relatively cheap in order to be able to compete and not make a loss overall. So the price of electricity is basically what determines. If you live somewhere with cheap electricity, you can buy one of these FPGAs and you can make a profit every day from mining. But if you have a graphics card and if you're paying expensive electricity, then it's cheaper to buy the tokens than it is to mine them.
All right. We'll move right on. Next question from another friendly wolf, Kuruk. He asks, I see the allure of seasonal tokens which have predictable price changes, but none of the halvings appear to have influenced the price as much at all, with the seasonal tokens showing some sharp downslides in price similar to each other. What are you guys doing to induce interest and value in the tokens?
So that's a good question. So you can't see the effect of the halvings in the dollar price charts, and it's the same with Bitcoin. If you look at Bitcoin or Litecoin or any of these other coins that have halvings, then around the time of the halving, there's no massive change in the dollar price. What with seasonal tokens, you can see the effect of the halving, but you can only see it in the relative price charts where you're comparing the price of spring to summer and so on. And the reason there is because when you're comparing spring to summer, you're kind of subtracting out all of that randomness that affects the price charts with dollars and in external currencies. Because once you're measuring something in external currencies, you have to bring in all these other economic variables like the state of the economy and how much money people have to spare and so on. So that's definitely true. With regards to what are we doing to try to push the prices of the tokens up? Well, we're buyers. If you want to buy the tokens or mine the tokens, if you want to mine the tokens to sell them, then you might want the price to be high. But if you're a buyer, then you are somebody who wants low prices. So ultimately what we do want is the prices of the tokens to rise a lot. but we don't want them to rise a lot right now because we're still buying. we want to build up a big stockpile of tokens, and then we want the prices to rise after we've got a big stockpile of tokens. And that's kind of how the system was designed. Like, it's designed now that we have 500,000 new tokens of each type produced every month. That's going to keep the prices low. And we don't want to oppose that because we want to get some of those cheap tokens. And so essentially the way to invest in seasonal tokens, if you want to do it sensibly over the long term, is just to buy a small amount every month. And if you just keep doing that, spend a few dollars a month, or I don't know, whatever you think you want to. And if you do that, then you'll get a share of these tokens that are going to be produced very cheaply for the next few months and years. And it's not realistic to expect that the price will go to the moon tomorrow. I mean, it could very well be the case that we'll get a lot of interest and the price will rise and so on. But we can't guarantee that.
And to all my degens who were expecting that, the 2021 is over. I'm sorry, guys. We gotta look at a longer term time horizon than yo, am I going to make 10x in 6 weeks?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's possible that you'll have a huge influx of interest and that the prices will rise. For somebody who's starting to buy today, it would make it. They would be somebody who wouldn't want that to happen. They would be somebody who would want the prices to stay low for a few months or a few years so that they can build up a stockpile, and then they'd want the price to rise after that. And that's basically why we have this 9-month gap between the halvings. And so we're basically in a state of cheap abundant autumn tokens now until the autumn halving happens in December, and then autumn will become basically scarcer forever. So the intention is for this to slowly ramp up over the course of the next few years and the next decade, so that people who buy the tokens today are going to be in a very good position 10 years from now. But we can't guarantee that they're going to be in a good position a month from now.
Nice. All right. Kuruk's second question. I observed your tokens will require holders to actively trade in order to accumulate more. Do you guys have any sort of solution or initiatives for those who are less active in context of, let's call it what it is, the absurdly prohibitive gas prices on the Ethereum network? That's mostly what's going to get in the way here.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Yeah, so we have already built a bridge to Polygon, and people can trade the tokens on Polygon and Uniswap there, and the gas costs are almost zero. We have we don't have a bot yet that will allow people to trade automatically. Well, I mean, it's very easy to write a bot like that. You could tell GPT-4, these are the contract addresses of the tokens, and this is where to get the prices from Uniswap, and please write a bot for me that will automatically trade at these prices, and it will do it. It will generate the code, and you can run it, and it will work. So it's not very hard to produce a bot that will do the trading of tokens for more tokens over time. But we just haven't done it because we don't want. If there's a bot like that, you have to give it money and then let it use your money to trade. And what we don't want to do is to become people who are holding other people's money in our custody. We don't want to turn into a business and to basically provide custodial services. That would cause legal risk, and it would also change it from a decentralized commodity into kind of a business in which people give their money to some small group of people to manage. So what we would prefer is for people to write their own bot. It's really not very hard. But in terms of buying tokens over time, I think DCAing into the tokens is the right way to do it, and we can have we're kind of looking at having a bot that will allow people to do that, but we also need to basically not have that bot hold a lot of money for other people because we don't want the legal liability that comes along with that. So bots are possible. It's very easy to use bots with the system. They're ERC20 tokens, and it's extremely simple to do it. But it's just, as a team, we don't want to take on that legal liability.
Makes sense to me, boss man. Alrighty, next question from Master Halo 40. Why did you guys decide to develop directly on Ethereum compared to other networks that might be cheaper or have differentiated advantages? What would be the main reasons you guys chose to begin on Ether?
That's a great question, and it's a relatively simple answer, which is that the tokens are going to be mined for the next 200 years, and of all the blockchains that of all the blockchains that existed at the time that they were launched, Ethereum was the one that it looks like it had the highest chance of being still around in 200 years. So I can't guarantee. For the Binance Smart Chain, for example, would have been a very cheap option, but the problem with doing it there is that it's tied to a specific corporation, and that corporation may not be around in 200 years. In fact, the Binance Smart Chain could just disappear along with Binance at some point in the future. I mean, to expect that Binance will still be here in 200 years, that's taking quite a gamble. But with Ethereum, basically because it is decentralized, because it's not a corporation, and because it's very easy. If the Ethereum blockchain went down completely, somebody else would start it up because the data is available and it's easy to do that, and it's just so valuable. There's the ecosystem, the smart contracts that are there are so valuable. Somebody is going to keep the Ethereum blockchain going, and so that means that basically just to choose a blockchain that was still going to be there in 200 years. That's why we chose Ethereum.
All right. Master Halo's second question. I'd like to know why you guys chose to create 4 tokens instead of just the one. What advantages, benefits, use cases exist for each one individually? And is there like a governance or DAO system where the holders of the coins can help make decisions for how it's going to work?
All right, those are great questions. So DAO system, no, there's basically no possibility of controlling the tokens at all. It's all completely automatic. But in terms of why do we have 4 tokens instead of 1? The reason is that with just 1 token, it would be hard to have it cycle up and down relative to anything else. It would need a benchmark against which the prices would cycle in order to be able to do this kind of seasonal trading or cyclical trading thing. So we made 4 tokens because when you look at Bitcoin, it kind of has one year of a bull market and then 3 years where it's not a bull market. So I was like, originally when I was thinking of like, we want to make a second version of Bitcoin so that when Bitcoin goes down, then this other coin would go up. Then that on its own was such a large project that I never even thought about adding a third one or a fourth one. But I kind of understood that if there's 1 year out of 4 that it goes up, then you want to have that happening 4 times in a cycle. So basically creating 3 new versions of Bitcoin would have been ideal, but that just seemed like too much effort. So I tried to create 1, and then I realized that was too much effort. But with seasonal tokens, you can basically cover the whole cycle with bull markets by having 4 tokens and these staggered halvings. So that was how it was done. So basically, you can have each token. You hold spring while spring is in a bull market, then you switch to summer, and then you hold summer while summer is in a bull market, and then you switch that to autumn. So the idea is you can stay in a bull market by hopping from token to token, and you wouldn't be able to do that with a single token.
And of course, by doing that, they kind of sidestep a lot of the risk elements of what we have going on here. Because obviously, when it comes to realizing gains and realizing losses, that's sort of the battle that a lot of traders end up fighting. So for context, I feel like that's important to add. All right, next question's from Doomer. Good to see you, Doomer. All the seasonal tokens since launch are kind of following a similar pattern as other altcoins. How can I differentiate the seasonal tokens with the other tokens on the market?
That's absolutely great. Yeah. This is kind of what we expected, and it's the pattern that all of the altcoins tend to follow. You do have this, initially launched at a higher price that's at a price that's higher than the price it eventually settles down into, and you have a long period when the price just moves sideways, and it's essentially a pattern that plays out with pretty much all the altcoins. So I guess the important difference. So I mean, it's possible to speculate that that seasonal tokens will also do what other altcoins have done as they kind of like slowly inched up in popularity, which is that they go through kind of a threshold. And there's kind of a critical moment at which a certain fraction of the cryptocurrency community all starts to pay attention at the same time, and then you get a big kind of going to the moon effect. It's possible that will happen. We are kind of deliberately raising our visibility over time. We're introducing like new tools for people, and we're growing our community. So it's likely that there will be some period at which we suddenly get a lot of attention, and that could result in a price increase that could be quite dramatic. But that's not kind of something that we're. I mean, obviously, we'd all be very happy if that happens. If we've already got a lot of tokens and then the price rises, that would be very nice. But that's not something that's going to be sustainable. That's something that would be like, almost a pump and dump. The price would rise because of a sudden amount of incoming excitement and incoming investment, and then it would crash again afterwards, and people would lose money. What we would prefer is for the price to just rise steadily or even stay flat for a long time, because the idea here is that you're not trying to profit from increasing prices. The idea is you try to profit from the prices as they cycle around each other over time, so you're not relying on price appreciation. So yeah, I guess from the point of view of why would you invest in seasonal tokens rather than another altcoin if the prices of the tokens are behaving just like the prices of all the other altcoins? The reason is that with seasonal tokens, there are 4 prices that are doing this cycling around each other thing, and that provides an extra avenue for profit that doesn't depend on price appreciation. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Now, Doomer's second question we already answered, but I'll just kind of cover it for a minute for anyone else who just came in. Doomer's second question is, the token sounds cool, but the concept of bringing them all together is even cooler. How'd you come up with that? It was a unique combination of Islamic financial principles and the laws of physics, which is probably one of the coolest inspirations for a project that we've seen on this show in 30 episodes. I gotta highlight that. That's really cool. And Doomer's final question is worth asking. Do you guys have any upcoming strategies to get more people interested and trading and staying invested rather than simply flipping up and up into more tokens?
Absolutely. So I guess the big thing that insofar as there's a challenge, the challenge that we've faced is getting people to understand the system and the principle behind the token. So what we're doing is using the simulator, because we've tried talking to people and giving presentations and saying it in words and showing people graphs. But what we found is that people tend to get hypnotized and they go into a trance when you talk about spring, summer, autumn, winter, and when you talk about trade tokens for more tokens, and when you talk about prices cycling around each other. It all sounds very mystical and very impressive, but it leaves people kind of dazed and wondering what's going on, and they don't actually see the value. What we've found lately, and this has been we've had over the last few months, we've had a lot of growth in the community and a lot of interest, and I think the main breakthrough has been that we've realized that we need to get people to look at the simulator and to see how it works and to try it out for themselves. Once they do that, that's basically it. We don't need to give them lectures, we don't need to show them graphs, we don't need to educate them in other ways, or we don't need to try to break through a psychological barrier where they're going into a trance of becoming hypnotized. They get it as soon as they get to play with the simulator. So that's basically what we're doing, and that's kind of our current strategy. We're also trying to explain to people that it's not a going to the moon tomorrow project, that it is a long-term project, and that the style of investment that you need to use is DCA. You need to buy small amounts regularly, and what we don't want is somebody to come along and buy a massive number of tokens all in one go and push the price to the moon, because that would mean that we wouldn't get cheap tokens because the price has gone too high, and it would also mean that the price is going to crash after that, and people are going to lose money. Anybody who bought at the top. So so basically those are the things that we need to do to kind of keep it going steadily. We're not looking for a massive explosion because we don't want instability. The whole kind of system of it is that the prices can be stable relative to each other, and it can be a way that you can steadily and gradually increase your wealth. And it's not intended to be an instant risk and a gamble like all the other tokens are out there.
All right. Our next questioner comes from Sakuna, who asks, what makes the graph so special? The graph is confusing. Well, initially when you were looking at the one that we saw that looked kind of crazy with the prices, that one's really confusing. This one, the one I just posted in the chat, I think is a lot less confusing. This will look a little less noisy and should, as clearly as possible, articulate how a trader could start by having winter, which is common, and then you can see the halvings occur, which then follows spring becoming the most common. So that that should clear that question up. He asked the next obvious question: what is the future, and how is it going to contribute to the crypto space in the long term? Obviously, their intention is for like over 200 years of financial engineering with this project, which they've like let go. They're kind of hands off even now. So to answer that question, it's hard to say what the future of the project is going to be, because it's hard to say what the future of the whole space is going to be, just from my market maven perspective, looking at the market right now. So I don't want to hold the seasonal team to that gun just yet.
Nope.
But
absolutely, that's completely correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but the next question. While Seasonal Tokens provides a long-term token accumulation strategy, what effective measures can traders adopt to mitigate the inherent market risks stemming from potential price volatility? Now, again, though, we kind of already have actually answered that, because the engineering of the halvings is your security. That's your inherent risk mitigation, as it were.
Absolutely, yeah. That and the strategy of just, if you follow the rule, never trade tokens for fewer tokens, then that means you've eliminated the risk of ending up with fewer tokens than you started with. The number of tokens you have will always increase and never decrease. But just thinking about volatility, if you trade at a random time, or you trade at a particular schedule or on a scheduled date, then
a dollar cost average strategy, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. If you do that without even looking at the prices, then you can expect to do your performance will be a certain amount. But what you can do is you can do better if you actually watch the prices all the time and watch out for a price fluctuation. For example, if you're planning to trade winter for spring, you can wait for a fluctuation where winter is higher than usual and spring is cheaper than usual, and then trade at exactly that time. So and by doing that, you get a better deal, because you get more spring tokens for your winter tokens, and the fraction of by which you increase the number of tokens that you have with every trade kind of gets bigger if you can take advantage of the volatility. So when you do that, if the prices are too far apart and you trade the more expensive one for the cheaper one, you push the prices together. Because you're selling the more expensive one and buying the cheaper one. So it has a stabilizing effect. It's kind of the effect of the traders on the prices is to reduce volatility and to keep the prices kind of behaving rationally and to keep the market rational.
All right. Yeah, the rest of your questions, Sakuna, I can't get to because we got to keep moving. Oba asks, who is auditing this contract and how often?
That's a great question. So the contracts have already been deployed in 2001, but we've had three different teams that audited them. The first was the Callisto Security Auditing Department. They have so Callisto is I think they're mostly using the Ethereum Classic chain, but they provide an auditing service, and they were the people who audited OX Bitcoin, which was the first token that was mineable using proof of work. So because they had experience and they already kind of understood the basics of proof of work token mining, we went with them for the first audit. And then after that after they released their audit report, I think it was maybe around June of 2021. After that, we implemented the changes that they recommended, and we also got a second auditor, which was Quill Audits, and they provided another even more thorough analysis of the tokens. We implemented their changes, and then later we got Paladin. The Paladin are very, very good. They're kind of like they're probably the best auditors that I've seen out there. I mean, people say that Certic are good, but I think we were quite happy with our choice of Paladin for the third audit. They did an extremely professional job. They looked into not just the code and how secure it was, but also into the economics, the tokenomics, and the rates of production. They looked at the simulations that were done to make sure that the prices would actually behave this way, and that nobody was going to be able to cheat the mining system by adding hash power and taking it away again, or trying to maliciously outcompete other miners. They thought about all of that very carefully. So so you can see all of the audits. They're basically at the bottom of our website. there are links. It says audits at the bottom of the page, and you can see the audits. And I think the auditors did a great job. They basically improved the security of the token contracts quite a lot.
Excellent. Oba's second question: is there any way to prevent market manipulation, or could a multi-accounter trade between themselves in order to exploit rewards?
So market manipulation, I think, in a certain sense, yes. What a market manipulator would, if a normal market manipulator is trying to implement something like a pump and dump scheme, so they're trying to say we're going to push this token price up, and then it's going to crash, and we're going to profit by taking money from everybody who buys at the top. With seasonal tokens, there's a way to take advantage of that, which is that if a token is rising in price, you don't buy it. Instead, what you do is you trade tokens for other tokens. So if there's a dip, for example, in some other token, any other token project, people would say buy the dip, and that will be how you deal with when prices go down. But with seasonal tokens, if a price goes down, you don't buy the dip. You can just take it by just trading tokens for more tokens. You don't need to invest more money. So and also if the prices go too far apart, if you can get 5 spring tokens for 1 winter token, then that's a great deal. Then you would definitely trade your 1 winter token to get 5 spring tokens, because you're quintupling the total number of tokens you have. So essentially the prices can't be manipulated far outside of their normal range where we expect them to be. Because if that happens, then it provides an opportunity for people to trade tokens for more tokens and to try to suck money away from the market manipulator. So there's kind of an anti-market manipulation system that's already built into it. And I hope that makes sense, because it's a little bit complicated, but I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to sort of both honestly Bitcoin and Ethereum systems in that way. It's really not dissimilar. The network itself represents a kind of security. Which, in a way, brings us to Oba's next question. Would you guys consider seasonal tokens to be a security? I call that the Gary Gensler question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we've tried to do everything we can from the very beginning to make these things into commodities rather than securities. For example, they're not issued; they're found by miners, and that means they don't come into existence because somebody signs a digital document and applies their digital signature and kind of creates new tokens by fiat. Instead, miners have to solve mathematical problems, and when they find a solution to the mathematical problem, they found new tokens as well. So the tokens are kind of found rather than issued. Another thing is that they're not controlled centrally. There's no corporation, and everybody's on an equal footing, and so on. So we actually did we put in a lot of effort into the design and the construction of the tokens to make sure that they would be regarded as commodities. And even after we did that, when we had launched, we contacted a law firm. It's one of the biggest law firms in the world. And I talked to them and said, basically, look, we are trying to be commodities, and we want to stay safe. We don't want to get into trouble with the SEC. And what they said, it was actually very helpful. It was very expensive legal advice, but I guess it was worth it. What they said at the time was that it looked that, because this was earlier on in the project, we didn't have as big a community as we did now, and I was doing more interviews on television channels and on podcasts and so on. So if people were looking at the project, they would see me, and they wouldn't see so many other people. And they weren't. The lawyers warned me that because I was so visible at the time, that people who were buying the tokens could regard themselves as making a bet on my personal success rather than buying a commodity, and the SEC could regard that as a reason to classify it as a security. So we took this advice seriously. I stopped doing TV interviews. Some of the other team members stepped forward, and we worked on building a community, making our community more visible as well, because we had a community on Discord, but it wasn't visible from the outside world. What we really wanted was to see activity on Reddit and on Twitter and on other places, so that this is kind of searchable from the rest of the web, and there's a visible community there. So since then, we've changed the structure of things and we've moved in the right direction. I think we're in a much better position now. Also, thanks to the results of this Ripple case, it's possible that the SEC will back off a little bit, or will at least recognize that they've overreached a little bit and been calling too many things securities. But I think in general, we're in a much better position than a lot of other token projects, I think.
I don't disagree after what I just heard. Is there final question from Oba? Any plans to expand into gaming and NFT?
So yeah, we won't be launching any other tokens, so we won't be launching any other NFTs, or at least from like the team won't be doing it. The individual community members can launch NFTs. They can integrate the tokens into games, and they can do that. And we would love to see anybody using the tokens in any game or any innovative way. That's absolutely great. But yeah, we ourselves, but basically because we don't want to be a business, we don't want to be regarded as running the operation, a corporation, exactly. Yeah. Because we're not going in that direction, so we won't be kind of doing any of those things in our own name. But we'd love to see the community engaging in basically anything that they enjoy, and we will what we will be doing is we'll be doing things to keep the community amused. Like we'll add features to this simulator as time goes on, so that it's not just the same boring thing everybody is doing when they use the simulator. Instead, we'll try to make it more realistic, add new features, and try to keep the interest alive. And and we'll also try to keep everybody on our Discord server amused and happy, because they're our community and we need to keep them happy.
Well, I just have to say the questions are so substantive. I'm almost intimidated myself. We have a ton to get through. We've been going for like a straight hour 20. I just want to thank the seasonal team for making it this far. There's still so many to go. I hope you guys will be able to stick with me at least a little while longer so I can get through some of these, because the community really they brought their A game.
Absolutely, this is great. So on that topic, would it be reasonable for Polar or Dromacat or Haldimer to take the next question, and that way I can take a quick break and then continue?
Absolutely, it's whatever's most comfortable for you guys. If y'all need like a few minutes, Ruadan, to just take a breather, I'm happy to indulge you with that. Let other team members answer the questions, but your answers have been stellar. I really appreciate it, and I know the community does too. But Lucan is in the chat like, no breaks.
No breaks.
No breaks. You have to keep going.
Okay. All
right.
Okay. So I'll be back in a few minutes then.
No problem, boss. No
Thanks.
problem. All right. Our next question comes from Panda, who asks about the ethics. How is Seasonal Tokens going to ensure ethical practices within the project, and what measures are in place to maintain transparency and fairness? From anyone on the team who feels comfortable to answer that.
Okay, so I think I can speak about that. Basically, the ethical aspect of the tokens is that you can see in advance the result of your trade. With other systems, you have to gamble. You bet that maybe the price will go up or maybe the price will go down. But here, since you can see the relative prices of the 4 tokens, and you know in advance which token is going to be the most expensive in the future, then you can decide to make the investment, knowing in advance the results it's going to have. So this is basically the important part about ethics, that it is transparent and it is open, and anyone can watch the charts and take that decision themselves. And there is no way to enforce it or to try to advise anybody to behave in any way. So that's one of the good features of the project, that anything that will happen is not by decision or enforcing any sort of idea. It is all by economic rewards. The system rewards the ethical behavior. If you behave in this way, you will make more money. So that's basically it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Panda's second question: how does Seasonal Tokens aim to attract and engage a diverse user base? Do you guys have any specific strategies or features in place to encourage stakeholder participation?
I think one of the valuable things about the seasonal tokens is the educational aspect. We haven't done a lot about it yet because we are sort of taking feedback from the community. At the beginning, we thought, oh, this idea is very cool and everybody will get it. But it seems that it's difficult. You know, Ruan is talking about magnetic fields and rotating stuff, and he thinks that everyone will understand everything, but unfortunately, it's taking time. So I think the educational aspect is, for me, it's been very interesting because I was only doing stuff in Bitcoin and always thought, oh, everything else is shit coins and I don't care, and this kind of attitude.
The
But since
maxi thing.
yes, but since then I start looking at the possibilities of the Ethereum blockchain. So I have to learn everything from scratch. And these seasonal tokens has been very nice for that because they are very cheap. You buy them, you are not in fear that you will lose your money the next day or something. And there is lots of stuff to do. Like you can put them in a farm and get a passive income by farming the tokens, or you can do this day trading with try to exploit the fluctuations away from the relative prices, or you can do this seasonal trading, like every 9 months do a big trade of your tokens. So in every step of the project I've learned a lot of things, and I think this is one of the valuable things about this project, and that I personally think that we should go more in that direction because it's the way it's happening. When somebody comes to the server, then we see that they invite their family and their kids, and we have like 15-year-old kids there, and they are already the masters of the trading and everything. So I think that's very interesting because I also did the same. I started with my brothers, and then even my mother is doing something in MetaMask, and you know, it's completely weird. I think it's a very nice project for learning. And since we are for 1 year trying to speak to, you know, Bitcoin maximalists and Ethereum and this crypto people that is wants meme coins and all these kind of things, it's very hard to convince people who has already very clear idea of what they want. So it's been easier for us to go away into other markets and talk in South Asia. People there, they are very happy to use the tokens, and they are not questioning why this is not Bitcoin or not Ethereum, so I don't want it, and it is not Pepe. So either it's Bitcoin or Pepe. So it's very hard to go between these two things. Basically, that's what we want, to go more into the Arabic countries because of the Sharia certification.
Yes.
And also try to go to South Asia and Africa because those places is where people really need the technology. They are not trying to just gamble or protect their wealth. Basically, they don't have any money, and this is a way to make money, not to protect your wealth already.
That's right. In that sense, we're all subject to the same risks here in crypto. Okay, next question from Lucan, who is very active in chat. Will it become available to trade seasonal tokens on the Wax blockchain? I think he means Wax P.
Okay,
you can correct if I'm wrong.
I will just go and Google that. I have seen. Yeah, I mean, we. Well, let's see. Is it an Ethereum compatible blockchain?
It is a proof of stake blockchain, but I do not believe it is EVM compatible. I think they run on their own system.
Right. Okay. So, in that case, I have no idea actually. It's okay. So I'm just looking at it now. Okay, it's a carbon neutral Wax blockchain. Actually, I have heard about this before. I think people have shown it to me. Yeah. So if it has its own smart contract system, then it would be theoretically possible to deploy a contract on the Wax blockchain and have a contract on the Ethereum blockchain, so that somebody could send tokens on Ethereum to the Ethereum contract, and they would get locked in there, and then the corresponding tokens would get unlocked on the Wax blockchain. I would need to study their programming language and to study their EVM to know how to deploy those contracts. It is possible. For the moment, we're just on Polygon and Ethereum, but the ability to bridge to other blockchains is there. It's just a question of understanding the technology and getting everything set into place.
And Wax is a unique technological entity in the space, so it doesn't shock me. That's a good answer in my humble opinion. Lucan's second question: will phone users be able to mine and or farm coins?
They can definitely farm. Yep, that's easy. They can just go to our farming page and follow the instructions there, and everything should work nicely. Phones, I'm afraid they don't really have that much processing power. It is theoretically possible to mine on a phone. We don't have the software to do it at the moment. It could be written, but I don't know if it's really worth doing it, because somebody who's mining on a phone they could mine for a whole month and then just get one token. And the cost of charging the phone, charging up the phone, paying for the electricity to keep the phone charged would exceed the price of the tokens. So I don't know if it would be economical, but it is possible, at least in theory.
Awesome. Yes, and for those of you who are interested in wanting to farm the seasonal token ecosystem on phones, please take my advice now. Don't use Ether. Use Polygon. They have a bridge. It's better for you. Trust me. Especially if you are in the developing world and the value of a penny to a dollar, it punches higher for you than it does in Europe and America. So seriously, use Polygon. It's probably going to save you a lot of money. Okay, next question from Alicia. Alicia asks, how does seasonal tokens ensure a balance between predictability and adaptability in its cyclical halving mechanism, considering the dynamic nature of the crypto market? Oh, and Holdemir, if you have been talking, I have not heard you. Apologies. I think we've been having some lag issues on Discord's side. That is not a connection on your all side or on mine. It is a Discord side problem right now.
Okay, maybe I could address the question while maybe Halving can will come back or get audio sorted out. But so in terms of stability and keeping the equilibrium, there's the main feature that does that is the difficulty adjustment algorithm, and this means that whether the mining power is high or low, basically the difficulty of producing tokens adjusts so that the rate of production of tokens stays constant. And that means that for a 9-month period, we know which token is going to be produced at the slowest rate. We know which one is going to be produced at the fastest rate. And that means we can be relatively confident that the normal effects of supply and demand are going to push the prices into the right order. And that's been working out so far. It all seems to be good. In terms of the effect that the rest of the crypto market has on it, what the market sentiment and even sentiment, in our project, the effect that has is to push the average price of the tokens up and down. It doesn't have an effect on the relative prices of the tokens. So, for example, how many spring tokens you can get from a winter token, how you can get for a winter token, that is something that doesn't depend on how popular the project is or market sentiment or whether the overall crypto market is going up or down. But what the overall crypto market does affect is the average prices of the tokens. So, both a spring token and a winter token will be, twice as expensive if there's twice as much buying going on. But it doesn't affect the prices of the tokens relative to each other. So inside the system, it's pretty stable, and it's the prices kind of behave relative to each other in a controlled and predictable way. But the prices in external currencies like dollars, that's something that we're not attempting to control. It may even be illegal to attempt to control that. So we're not even making any attempt to basically say that the dollar prices will do this or that. It's only the prices of the tokens relative to each other that can be controlled in this precise way.
Awesome. Alicia's
Texas,
second.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes,
hear
we can hear
you.
you.
Great.
Okay, I was trying to speak for a while now, and I thought, okay. So I just wanted to follow up on a question regarding our community when it comes to where is it from. Someone spoke about transparency. Also, DramaCat was answering that, and a few questions that I also saw in the chat that speak about how our relationship with the community. And
Yes.
what I wanted to share with the Discord server here and with the community here is that what we're trying to do is, as Ruan was saying earlier, especially when the SEC a recommendation came to us, like it's better not to bet on someone's success. Rather, we need to make it a decentralized success. So this is exactly what we're trying to do with the community. So when it comes to our decisions, and this attends to some of the questions in the chat. So when it comes to many decisions in the project, so we have a stakeholder channel that everyone in the team and even community members can also become part of this stakeholders channel. We all think together and we try to vote on what is the best direction for the project. So what we're trying to achieve, this is exactly, I think, what transparency is all about. So what we're trying to achieve is we have to get united as a community. Everyone who comes in, everyone who shows great contribution becomes part of this group, and we all think together to make the best decisions for things to move forward. So a lot more can be said. I'll just content myself to that, to answer a little bit about the community, about transparency, and part of these stakeholders are from all around the world. Like you have people from Arabic countries, from Asia, from from Latin America, from the UK. We have a couple from India. We have from all over the world people that are taking part in this, and there's like no color, no race, no gender. Everything is open. Diversity is fully respected because that's the values we believe in. The value of diversity, the value of transparency, and respecting our community and trying to make the best to repay their faith in us. This is also a very important value for us. So yeah, just wanted to share that. Couldn't succeed in doing this before, but I thought I would like to add that.
Yeah, and that actually touches directly on Alicia's second question, which was regarding security and integrity of personal information and user funds, given the increasing importance of privacy in the digital age. And that also reflects on an earlier user's questions about KYC. Because this is a smart contract designed project, there isn't going to be a KYC need with, say, a centralized exchange or other similar projects that would require your personally identifying customer information. So that's worth noting here. All right. Next question from Rusty. How will you guys ensure the price of the tokens remains stable amidst the seasonal cycle? What exists as a mechanism to stop the price of the tokens from being as unstable as all of the other cryptos on the market right now? Which that's really a volatility question, is what that is.
It really is, yeah. And that's a great question. And I suppose the answer is that the tokens have a stabilizing effect on each other's prices. As I was saying, the principle that the traders are following is always trade tokens for more tokens of a different type. And if you can get 5 times as many tokens as you have in a single trade, that's a great trade to make. So what that means for the prices and for stability is that the prices aren't going to wander away from each other. If one of the tokens does become 5 times as expensive as the other, then as another token, then you will have traders trading that more expensive token for the cheaper one so that they can get 5 times as many tokens, and that will push the prices closer together because they'll be selling the expensive one and buying the cheaper one, and that stops the prices from wandering away. So if you look at the classic theory of basically pricing securities or pricing equities or pricing assets, there's a theory which is that they perform a random walk. Essentially, that it's not a completely accurate theory. It's like a first approximation to how prices behave, and it's stochastic financial models like the Black-Scholes equation for pricing options and so on, they all suppose that prices behave this way, that they kind of walk around randomly. But with the seasonal tokens, there's some randomness, there is volatility, and there are fluctuations, but it's kept within bounds because of the rational behavior of the traders. The traders who want to get as many tokens as they can are going to stop the prices from wandering away from each other, because a big gap between the prices is an opportunity for traders to take a profit and push the prices together. So there is a stabilizing kind of mechanism that's in there. The other thing is that the fact that there are 4 tokens means that there's hash power, like mining power, devoted to one token, and there's also capital. There's a certain amount invested in that token, and the miners are able to shift hash power from one token to another token, and the investors are able to shift capital from one token to another token by trading tokens of one type for another. So these are kind of degrees of freedom that miners have and investors have that they don't have in things like Bitcoin. If you're a Bitcoin miner, if you're a Bitcoin miner, then there's no other coin that has as big a market cap as Bitcoin, or has as much hash power as Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin becomes unprofitable to mine, the miners, they just have to turn off their mining machines. There's just no other coin that can absorb that much hash power, and there's no other coin that can absorb that much capital. So what you have with seasonal tokens is each token is kind of stabilized because the other 3 tokens behave as kind of reservoirs of hash power and capital, so that if there's a disturbance, like when a halving happens, the system is able to adapt gracefully, and the miners don't have to go bankrupt because they can just switch to another token, and the investors get the chance to trade for the token that's recently become halved, and to basically make a profit from that. So there are these systems for stabilizing the prices in there, and they seem to have been working pretty well so far.
Nice. All right, next question from K. Zweta, who asks, my question for Seasonal is in regards to the current bear market scenario. As a project, what strategy would you say has worked for you so far in getting adoption? Do you guys think your current strategy needs improvement or a change entirely based around marketing?
So that is a good question. Should we be going in another direction? So in a certain sense, I think we're on the right direction. What we want is slow, steady community growth. We don't want anything unstable. We want it to be smooth, and we don't want these massive speculative bubbles that happen in other tokens and in meme coins and so on. So in terms of marketing, the direction we'd like to go in is to invite people to spend small amounts of dollars or Ethereum or whatever on the tokens every month. What we don't want is somebody to come in and just dump $1 million into the project and buy tokens right now. That would be bad because it would cause instability in the markets. The price would go through a pump and dump. There'd be people who'd make a big loss because they'd buy at the top. It would cause market panics and herd behavior and so on. So what we're trying to do is just to keep it gradual, and I suppose what we want over the long term is the prices to rise, but to rise gradually and not to behave in any unstable way. So we're not really looking for kind of a big bang where we where the prices of the tokens go to the moon. So that's not the kind of marketing that we want to promote. Instead, we want to do it through community growth, through word of mouth, and educating people, and getting a large number of small investors rather than kind of a small number of large investors. Because basically, even though somebody who dumped $1 million into the project and bought a whole lot of tokens, even though that would make existing token holders very happy, it would have negative market effects, and it would be kind of detrimental to the project in the long run, because it would result in some people losing money. And what we really prefer is slow and steady growth, and essentially kind of responsible financial behavior, I guess, rather than kind of gambling and trying to get rich quick.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting pinged by my dear friend Polar. I think he wants sort of me to clear up when the actual contest is going to start. I wanted to start the contest as soon as we finish the questions, but there's so many good questions that it's going to be I just want to, I got to keep going. I got to try to get through as many as I can because like we're getting such good information and it's crazy. I'm truly like humbled and blown away by like the scale of the questions going right now. Kay Zueta's final question: short-term, immediate goals for 2023. If you guys have top 3, share them.
Oh, that's a good one. Top 3, I guess. I guess continued growth of our Discord community is one of them. We're working very hard on that. We do have a thriving Discord community. I think there's a great feeling in the server, and people are having fun, and that's going well. Well, another thing that we need to do that we haven't really started yet is to branch out into Telegram. There are people on Telegram who would be interested in this. In fact, we have some team members who are already working on Telegram. They're already talking to people in private, and they have contacts there who are saying, yes, as soon as you've got something set up on Telegram, then we'll join the group and we'll participate. We'll buy some tokens and we'll DCA in and so on. So we are working on getting that set up. That's kind of probably one of the more immediate goals that we have. And after that, I guess what we would like to do, I suppose, is to have kind of a place where people who are buying regularly can get together and talk about the project and discuss, their investment strategies and how it's going to work. Not in an environment where people are saying it's all going to go to the moon tomorrow, but rather where people have the more realistic attitude that, like, look, there are going to be 500,000 tokens of each type produced every month, and we want them to be cheap so that we can get some of them, and basically to have a more mature kind of investing audience or group where people can get together and have kind of an investment kind of attitude that is less speculative and is more focused on the long term. So I guess those are the kind of things that are going to be happening in the next few months, along with the other things that we're doing, like trying to improve the simulator and add features and to keep things interesting for the community. If anybody else, the other thing is that the team has been doing things that they've been doing so much stuff that and the community have been doing so much stuff, I haven't been able to keep up with all of it. So I don't know if any of the other team members want to join in with important things that are happening that I haven't paid enough attention to, then please go ahead.
All right.
But yeah, I think perhaps the only thing that is missing is that we want more community participation, because we've been trying to do activities to raise this awareness about the tokens. But we discovered recently that the Discord community, they know a lot better than us what is it that needs to be done.
Yeah, it really can be like that.
Just listening to the people. Yeah. So basically, we're learning, and that's one important thing about this year, that we've learned a lot of things from people that just drop in the server and tell us, look, guys, why you don't do this or do that? And we say, well, we'll have a look. And yes,
direct feedback.
Good things coming from the community. There are lots of experts here.
And the questions reflect it. It's really intense. I'm only 40% of the way through the question docket, and there's so many more great questions. Any that we've already covered that are part of your pins, I'm not going to ask because we've already covered it, but it's still included, so users, don't worry about that. Next question from Mahar, who asks, what is the scope that the seasonal tokens will be traded at in large scale in order to create a rise in demand and find a stable value after each halving when there is no explicitly planned utility apart from the cyclical trading? Tough question, bro.
That's a tough question. So scope. I don't know. So can you? Is there any clarification possible about what's meant by scope?
I use the word scope I believe he's using the word scope to try to interrogate the vision of the project for how the value is going to sort of bounce around when the only mechanism that's actually controlling the value bounds is the halving. He's kind of just sort of double checking, like, is there any sort of team, I guess you could say team mechanism that would be designed to like a buyback or a buyback and burn is what I believe he's kind of asking about.
Right. Okay. Yes, I completely understand. So so buybacks and burns and so on. Those are good for tokens that are created at zero cost. So the idea, because these are proof of work tokens, that means that they're not easy to come by. You need to do honest work in order to produce them. And in a sense, so the whole idea of proof of work is that if somebody has a diamond or an artistic masterpiece or something that very clearly required a lot of work to produce, then you know that it's not going to be hyperinflated. There's not going to be lots of cheap, there's not going to be lots of cheap gold in the world tomorrow because gold, requires work to produce or to mine. So that means that you don't need another mechanism as it were to support the market value of proof of work tokens. Their scarcity on its own, and especially the fact that they're becoming more scarce in the future, that provides upward pressure on the price. So we don't need to implement it. Well, we shouldn't because we don't want to be a business and we don't want to be a corporation. We shouldn't, as a team, be kind of like providing buyback services for the tokens. But the other thing is that basically, because of how they're intended to work as commodities, we don't need them to be redeemable for anything else, and we don't need to burn them because burning is good when you have, like, if a company or a project starts off and they give themselves millions of tokens for free, and then they keep a treasury of those tokens and then use them to run a business, then it's easy to see how these people have that many tokens. They're trying to run a business. The tokens haven't been produced at zero cost, and their natural market value would be zero unless you do some other kind of tricks with smoke and mirrors like burning or staking and so on. But proof of work tokens don't quite need that. The halvings themselves and the fact that the tokens are becoming more scarce, that means that the demand side of it isn't quite as important. But the cycles in the prices are driven by supply. When it's the reduction in supply that caused Spring to go from being the cheapest token to the most expensive token. It doesn't need a corresponding change in demand for that to happen. So I think basically, because they're proof of work and because the cycles are driven by supply, we don't need to worry about the demand so much. What the demand will affect is the average dollar price of the tokens, but it doesn't really have any effect on the prices of the tokens relative to each other. And so we can have these stable cycling of prices around each other relative to each other without needing to worry about what the aggregate demand is. If the demand is keeps getting lower and lower, then that means that the dollar prices of tokens will keep dropping. But even as that happens, the prices will still cycle around each other to kind of spiral down. And if lots of people are buying the tokens in increasing numbers over time, then the prices would keep cycling around each other, but they'd spiral upwards. So, the cycling behavior isn't really sensitive to demand because it's controlled by supply. So we don't need to kind of put in any extra mechanisms for that. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes. All right. I should be able to blaze through a few questions myself here real fast. Okay, Mahar's second question: what is the main motive to bring the trade simulator with seasonal tokens and make it accessible? How is it useful? Its main use is in education, understanding both halving mechanisms and how one can use the halving mechanisms with seasonal tokens to earn more by simply trading up each time. So that's the purpose of the seasonal trading simulator, is to educate how one would go about doing that. Okay, next question from Usama Anwar, how are you planning to target? And he always asks this question. This is his favorite question. How are you planning to target the big crypto markets of Asia, India, Pakistan, and the Middle East? As you know, many are skeptical in these areas of crypto assets. To a certain degree, we've already touched on that too. They are Sharia law kind of verified and validated by auditors. So in that context, this is a project that is uniquely positioned to market directly into the Middle East and areas of the world that I would consider centrally Islamic.
Absolutely. Yep. That's completely true. And we are looking. We're also looking at partnerships with projects that are focusing on Islamic finance in the cryptocurrency world, and hopefully we've already got a few of those set up, and hopefully we'll be making more of those as time goes on, and we can have events. We can invite people from their Discord servers to come to ours. They can take part in a trading contest and learn how the simulator works and learn about how to use it and so on, and we can show them our Sharia certification. And we do have a strategy, and I guess we're going to be pushing forward with that in the next few months.
Awesome. And his second question is, explain the project in 4 words.
Okay, I'm going to ask GPT-4 to do this. Oh no, I can't. Sorry, I would have to explain the project to you again. GPT-4 has a short memory, and I've had such long conversations with it about it that it would go past. Okay, explain. Okay, let's see. Trade tokens for more tokens. No, that's 5 words. Trade tokens for more. Is that's not good enough, is it?
Here's my shot. I'll take a shot at it.
Sounds good.
That's my shot. Cyclical halvings, trading seasons. That's my shot. 4 words describing this project.
Perfect. That's quite a challenge. That's a tricky question.
Oh yeah, the wolfies go hard, brother. Next question. Sahal asks, in order to increase my bag size, I need to arbitrage between tokens. As seasonal tokens are on ERC20, how would traders tackle the high gas fees? We already did sort of address this earlier. They are expanding into EVM and in some cases, if possible, non-EVM chains, but the team has to explore that and the mechanisms specifically before they can give us any further answers as to, like, for example, whether seasonal will be on Wax.
Absolutely, yeah. But they are on Polygon already, so it's possible to dodge the high Ethereum gas fees doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I've been here 2 hours and I'm only just now hitting the halfway mark. This is my, I guess we'll call this the litmus test. How is the seasonal token feeling about the AMA so far?
I think it's been brilliant. I just want to thank you, Nexus, and I want to thank the whole community here. It's been a great turnout. It's been extremely great so far. It's been a bit grueling, but
it is.
It's extremely good.
And that's why I don't get a lot of these, is because this show is grueling and it's hard. It's not an easy. I've run this in a way that's not easy. So any teams that step up, like, tip of my hat, because you guys really are nailing this, and this is not an easy show to nail.
This is brilliant. I just want to say thanks again. This has been basically by far the best AMA we've ever done, the most engagement, the best questions, and it's been very enjoyable.
Oh, and honestly, like, I'm not, like I said, I'm barely halfway there. The technical knowledge of the community is barely on display right now. It's insane, in my humble opinion. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. All right. Next question from Kratos, who asks, can we expect a consistent increase in the value of tokens relative to each other as intended? Functionally, just from my perspective, I'm not sure we can, just because of the halving cycle. So the prices, the price of the whole ecosystem, that being like the 4 seasons together, I could see that rising in perpetuity. But as for the token, like one token versus all the others, there's going to be ups and downs because it's built in.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah, and it will go through the cycles. We can't guarantee future prices, but we can kind of use our understanding of how supply and demand works. We know where the equilibrium price is going to be, and we know the prices can be expected to trend this way and trend that way, and it's been working out so far.
Oh. All right, next question from Kratos. Is it possible to ensure that holding and engaging in the cyclical trading of tokens will always yield profits without any losses? Technically, no. It's, at least from the team's perspective, there's no way they can promise that if the valuation you're choosing is in like fiat or Bitcoin. Like there's
Absolutely.
It's not possible to guarantee that the prices are always going to go up, but based on my understanding of the system, it is possible to ensure that you are always increasing your bag size, that you're always increasing the amount of tokens that you have, even if the price itself isn't changing at all across the cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the central point. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Final question from Kratos. Can we anticipate regular opportunities that the cyclical trading will result in a net increase in the number of tokens acquired? Technically, yes, I do believe you can if you were watching the charts and you're staying on top of it. This project is not a, like, I'm just going to buy a bag and sit on it forever kind of project, like Bitcoin or Ether can kind of be for a lot of people. With seasonal, you're going to want to pay a little closer attention because there's going to be these 9 to 10 month cycles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And hopefully the burden isn't too large. You can make a trade once every 9 months. And hopefully that's not too much to ask.
All right. Next question from Side Hustler. Are you guys making any money right now?
Well, I'm mining seasonal tokens. I suppose it's literally making money.
Yeah,
but,
there you go.
Yeah.
Any clues as to how much you're pulling in, Rude One?
So what I can say is that, like, I'm consistently buying tokens. So in that sense, as I have more and more tokens over time, even if their prices don't rise, but the number of tokens that I have rises, then that's a nominal profit. But I don't intend to sell tokens. If making money means selling tokens and having more dollars as a result of that, I'm not doing that right now because I'm trying to build up the stockpile and trying to invest and buy rather than to sell. If somebody wants to make money consistently from the tokens, the best way to do it, if you live in somewhere with cheap electricity, is to mine and then sell a fraction of the tokens that you buy to cover your operating costs and to take a small profit. That's a way to consistently make money measured in dollars from the token project. But the idea is that the tokens are expected to be worth a lot more in the future when they're a lot scarcer. And so the idea would be to accumulate them and build up a stockpile rather than to try to sell today and make a profit today.
Yeah, and building in the bear is definitely the time to do it. Side Hustler, I'm going to bundle his last questions together. Is your project easy to replicate? And when will we be able to buy the coins on centralized exchanges?
The tokens are already on centralized exchanges. There's two exchanges. Yeah, one is coinsbit.io and the other is coinstore.com. So coinsbit.io is in Estonia, it's in Eastern Europe, and coinstore.com is in Singapore. And they're both already traded there. They can be traded for USDT there. And then, of course, they're on Uniswap, on Polygon, and on Ethereum. And sorry, what was the other question?
Oh, his final question there was basically, do you think it's easy or difficult? How easy is it to replicate or duplicate the mechanism?
That's a good question. Yeah, so it's extremely easy for somebody to copy the smart contracts. Our smart contracts, they're open source, obviously, they're audited. Somebody can just copy the contracts, deploy them themselves, and have their own version of seasonal tokens if they want. But if they do that, what they'll discover is that they need to build a community. They'll discover that they need to get listed on centralized exchanges. They'll have to go through everything that we went through for the last 2.5 years. And that's going to be basically where all the work is.
All right. Next question from Black Shadow. Why should people buy the token when there are other options? He writes stable options like Litecoin and Bitcoin that also have halving, but I can't consider Bitcoin and Litecoin stable options right now. I guess you can consider them stable in terms of distribution and the distribution mechanisms, but I can't call them stable in terms of value. So
absolutely, but I do understand the question, and it is a good question. Like, why would you use seasonal tokens rather than Bitcoin or Litecoin? And the answer is basically, if you have Bitcoins, and imagine you have like 100 Bitcoins, then what will happen is that you'll spend Bitcoins and you'll have like less than 100 Bitcoins, and you even if you never spend any Bitcoins, you'll always have 100 Bitcoins. There's no way to get more Bitcoins without gambling. If you have Bitcoins and you want to get more Bitcoins, what you have to do is you have to say, okay, I think the price is going to go down over the next week, so I'm going to sell my Bitcoins now for dollars, and then you wait until the price is dropped, and then you buy back those Bitcoins at a cheaper price, or you buy more you use those dollars that you got for the Bitcoins to buy a greater number of Bitcoins after the price is dropped. So that's what you would have to do if you have Bitcoins and you want more Bitcoins. But the problem with doing that is that it's gambling. You're kind of betting that the price is going to go down. If the price goes up instead of down, then you end up with less Bitcoins than you started with. And so there's a risk of loss. So the reason that you would want seasonal tokens rather than Bitcoins is that if you have 100 seasonal tokens, you can increase that number of tokens without the risk that you're going to end up with less than you started with. That's basically the reason.
And Black Shadow's second question is kind of along that same line. He's asking, why should we mine the token when it's going to become harder to get every cycle and we have to switch from one to another every few months for the best profit? What advantages come to the miners so that they can continue mining? I would answer this question in the context of, like, as a miner myself, if I'm switching coins and I'm trading, which I often do as a miner, I'll mine into Tezos, I'll mine into Solana, I'll mine into all sorts of stuff. But it's always a value exchange calculation that I'm having to make personally, because I'm trading the work for a certain asset, and I want, if possible, for the asset to be compoundable. In this scenario, I would mine the most accessible seasonal coin, I'd accumulate it, right? And then when the cycle changes, I would trade it up for a greater quantity of the next seasonal coin, and I would ideally switch the miners over as well. So it's a combination package where if I'm a miner, I can mine, I can trade, and because of the seasonal cycle, there's a predictability to it that doesn't exist with the current crypto cycles. Like Ethereum going proof of stake, after that, the only thing Ethereum has going for it in terms of like a mining cycle is essentially just the gas fees going up and down, which that doesn't do anything for anybody other than frustrate. So it's a very, it's a very interesting kind of thing. And when Black Shadow's asking about advantages that the project is giving miners, it's the advantages are engineered in. So I don't think there's anything else the project could do, like even if they wanted to like buff up the mining returns.
Absolutely, yeah, you're completely right. I mean, there is the benefit that you don't get with Bitcoin, which is that when Bitcoin goes through a halving, then mining becomes unprofitable. Whereas with seasonal tokens, only one of the 4 tokens becomes unprofitable, and you can switch to one of the other 3, and you don't have to like turn off your mining machines.
And there's an argument to be made. There's an argument to be made that the seasonal nature of the Bitcoin halving means that in order for miners to keep remaining profitable, they have to keep they essentially have to keep it going. Like they have to keep it going in terms of the price going up. If the number doesn't keep going up in terms of Bitcoin, then the miners can't make any money. They need to have that price going up. So that's a critique you could kind of levy at the whole space if you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's completely accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Next user, Huvu, asks, what measures do seasonal tokens have in place to prevent double spending, token manipulation, or fraudulent activity within its ecosystem?
That's great. Yep, that's an easy question to answer. Ethereum takes care of all of that for us. We would have had to worry about that if we deployed our own blockchain, but now that we've deployed a ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, it takes care of all the double spending. All the transactions are validated by there. What our smart contracts do is they check the proof of work. and they issue new tokens. But the transactions that are sent to either claim the new tokens after proof of work has been generated or to transfer tokens from one person to another, that's all handled by the Ethereum blockchain. So that's essentially, it saved us a huge amount of work to basically use Ethereum and not have to worry about those things.
Awesome. Next question from Puvu. What safeguards or mechanisms are in place to protect token holder investment during a period of market downturn or unfavorable conditions? That's a tough one. There may not be much they can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot we can do. I mean, even during market downturns, people can trade tokens for more tokens and can get more tokens over time. And it's better to have 20 tokens, like 20 winter tokens, than to have 10 winter tokens. So you can't guarantee that if you buy 10 winter tokens and then turn them into 20 winter tokens later on, that you'll have made a profit measured in dollars. Like, you will make a profit measured in tokens, but if you turn 10 winter tokens into 20 winter tokens by trading, then you're less likely to make a loss than somebody who just holds on to the 10 tokens that they had. So it is a way to reduce the risk of making a loss. But ultimately, yeah, you're right. We can't control the overall direction of the crypto market. If it's going down, then it's going down, and there's no mechanism that any token can really use to stop that from happening.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the multiple vessels and vehicles for exchange, then it gets even more complicated. So if somebody's trading seasonal for Bitcoin, that's one equation. If they're trading for Ethereum, that's another. Polygon, even more. So it gets nuanced there.
Absolutely.
All right, next question from Fanny. Funny name. Can the UI be made more user-friendly? It seems pretty user-friendly already, but any ideas, guys, on making it even more user-friendly?
I would love it to be more user-friendly. If we can get feedback about what are the problems, what are the places where people are getting stuck, that would be very valuable information. We can accumulate that, try to iron out the parts that are causing problems. We'll definitely do what we can.
And Fanny's second question is, can you guys give the bot a profile picture?
The bot? Is this the trading contest bot? Is it?
I think that's what they're referencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody knows how to do that. I'm not sure if I know how to do that. I think it's almost definitely possible.
Yeah.
I think generating the picture is easy. Maybe you can just do it inside Discord. Is there? I don't know. I know how to write bots in Python and how to connect them into Discord. I've never given a bot a picture before, but as soon as I learn how to do it, I'll definitely do it.
Okay. Oh, geez, I'm being blown up. Man, whenever I do this show, my DMs just go nuclear. All right, moving on. F. Birdie asks, what challenges do you guys face now? Good partnerships, fast adoption, and tight security are the three things every blockchain project must have. What is your plan to make those three happen? Right.
So, I guess we've pretty much focused on security very well, I think, and the token contracts, I believe, are secure, and they're not going to be changed, and we don't have any control over them. So in that sense, that type of security has been taken care of. We still have to worry about there's things like people are using tip.cc to send tokens to each other, and they could have their Discord account hacked and they could lose access to the coins that way. There are limits to what we can do when people are using third-party services to handle tokens like tip.cc. What the other things were? What was it? Was it adoption and security? And what was the third thing that was mentioned?
Oh, the third item. Darn it! My thing is moving. Good partnerships, fast adoption, tight security.
Partnerships, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So we've taken on a new team member recently, Zahid, and he's head of partnerships now. He's been doing a tremendous job. I'm honestly not able to keep up with all of the people that he's made contact with. But what we're doing is we're reaching out to other Discord servers. Our goal essentially is to, with other Discord servers, is just to be able to invite people from that server to our server to take part in a contest. And we can give people like a tip of some tokens for taking part in the contest. The idea is that the more people who understand the concept behind the project, the better. That's essentially what we need to do. And so that's kind of what we're looking for in partners. What we have done in the past is we focused a lot on broadcasting, like sending things out on Twitter, writing press releases, and getting advertisements and articles published in mainstream media and so on. What we found is that although that creates a favorable impression, it doesn't necessarily result in new community members or anybody buying any tokens. So, but what does result in people joining our community is when they really understand the concept, and that comes from using the simulator. So, with partnerships at the moment, we're trying to focus on reaching out to people who have a community, and then seeing if we can get their community to use our simulator. Once they've done that, they'll get the concept, and then it's easier to hook them by doing that. Then it's a lot easier doing that than it is by trying to explain in words what's happening.
Perfect time to remind everybody there is a seasonal token trading contest at the end of this AMA. If you would like to participate, it is open to all.
Absolutely.
Just important to remind us all of that right here. Okay, moving on. F. Birdie's final question. Obviously, community important. You've told us about your strategy for increasing community and attracting users, but do you guys have any ambassadorial programs? Or I'd throw in a bug bounty as well in that same vein.
Right, we did actually have a bug bounty before the tokens were launched. I think it ran for maybe 2 months, and nobody submitted any bugs, and the auditors didn't find any security vulnerabilities. We were offering to pay, I think it was 1 ETH to anybody who could find any security vulnerability, and I don't know how many people looked, but nobody found one, and the auditors didn't find one either. So what was the? Sorry, I keep forgetting. These questions are coming in multiple parts. I keep answering only one part and forgetting the rest.
You're good. No, you're good. In this case, the sort of second part of this question is, I guess, ambassadorial programs. So do you guys have any rewards or, I guess, incentivization programs for getting community members to be a little more evangelical about it?
Oh my goodness, actually, yes. Maybe Dromacat can talk about that, because I think he's been working. We've been using a system called Zeely. I don't really know much about it. Hopefully Dromacat can explain a little bit more.
Yeah, so basically that what happens. Many people visiting our Discord server, they suggested us that we should have a special rewards for members who can help us promoting the project. So in response to that, then we are using this tool, the Zeely platform, so that we can basically reward the most active members in our community.
All right. Cool.
So in that sense, it will be like that, an ambassadorial program. We actually would like to do it by regions, having like the Turkish people having their own project there, and we have in Philippines and Indonesia, basically because these are the most active members and they themselves want to push in that direction, so just let them be.
A lot of the most successful sustaining DeFi projects that I've seen do something very similar to that. They have kind of a regional lockdown on portions of their communities. I don't do that in this server because I want everyone to swim together. I want like my Turks and my Chinese and my Filipinos and my Americans and my Brits. I want everybody talking together here. So that's the only reason I don't do that here. Otherwise, I do that here. Okay, next question from Milo Volker. Can you tell us about the motivations and benefits for investors to hold the token in the long term? Well, I can actually attest to that. The functional reason you'd want to buy and hold it is from the engineered scarcity cycle. Because if you're trading according to the engineered scarcity cycle, then you can trade up no matter whether you're starting with $5, $50, or 5,000.
Absolutely. Yep, that's the perfect answer.
Yeah. his second question is, what is the revenue model of seasonal tokens? In other words, how do you guys generate revenue or profit? So many projects will talk to us about the long-term vision and mission, but what are the short-term objectives to get money coming in, and what are you guys focusing on right now? So uber short-term.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're actually not a corporation. We're not actually taking in revenue. What we are is we're a group of people who see the value in the tokens, and we're buying the tokens, and we're mining the tokens, and we're trying to obtain them. We're not in a stage of trying to offload tokens and bring in dollar revenue at the moment. We're basically trying to accumulate tokens because we believe they're going to be worth a lot more in the future. So we're not running a profitable business right now. We're not running a business at all. We don't have a corporation, and we don't have revenue. What we're trying to do is to get as many tokens as we can.
Okay. Next question from Raucous Porpoise. How do you guys plan on incentivizing mining if the Ethereum prices are too high?
Does that mean the gas prices, or?
I think he is referencing the gas prices, but I guess if you're accepting, coin mining on different differentiated chains like Polygon, AVAX, similar EVMs, then we don't need to worry as much about the ETH gas price.
Right. Actually, so I think he may be right there that the thing is you can't, with proof of work tokens, you can't have them mined on multiple chains. They have to have a native chain that they're mined on, and in our case, it's Ethereum. So people can mine the tokens on Ethereum, and then they can bridge those tokens over to Polygon. But you can't mine the tokens themselves on Polygon. So it is a good question, and it's true that people who are mining today do have to pay some gas costs. So we've got the tokens have a system for kind of batching them together, batching the transactions together when you're mining. So you don't need to send a mining transaction every 10 minutes in order to generate new tokens. What you can do is you can send it, for example, every 100 minutes and get 10 times as many tokens in one transaction in order to save gas. So we have a mechanism that allows people to continue mining but not to have to send as many transactions on Ethereum, and that was designed intentionally to save gas. And we've also got a mining pool that we've set up, which is kind of gas efficient in the sense that people don't need to, with a lot of other mining pools, what happens is you mine and then it automatically sends you tokens after a certain amount of time, and those gas fees are paid. Either you have to deposit like an Ethereum balance, and then they take out Ethereum from your Ethereum balance whenever they send you tokens. What we've done is we've deployed a smart contract so that when miners are mining the tokens, the new tokens that are mined are owned by a smart contract, and they don't get sent out regularly. The person can wait as long as they want and then do a single transaction and withdraw all their tokens. So it's possible to make the gas costs as low as you want by doing things as infrequently as you want. So you wait, instead of doing it every 10 minutes or even every day, you could do your transactions just once a month, and then you only have to pay the gas fees once a month. So we do have mechanisms in there to reduce the gas fees.
Okay. There we go. Okay. We've got about 12 sets of questions left, guys. We're really blazing through. I swear we're going to hit the end very soon here. All right. Is it Raucous Porpoise's final question? Is it possible to have farms for pairs that are not with ETH but other cryptos? And I think the answer to that is yes, because you guys did just deploy the Polygon farm, didn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can do that with We've already done it with Polygon. It could happen with other coins in the future.
I guess I'd bundle that in. I guess I'd bundle in with that if you guys have any plans to expand to AVAX or Phantom or any of the other obvious EVM chains.
So I mean, we can. It's theoretically doable. The thing that we don't want to do is we don't. First of all, we don't want to take on legal liability for ourselves. The great thing about Polygon is that it's a side chain, and it has a proof of stake bridge between itself and Ethereum, which means that there's no individual legal entity that kind of holds the legal liability for the tokens that are in the bridge. And it also means that the tokens in the bridge can't be easily hacked and stolen. But if we were to, for example, make a bridge to any other chain as technology is commonly used today, it would involve us essentially, having to become custodians of the tokens that are in the bridge, and that would mean that we're kind of taking on a different role. We're starting to act as a corporation and a service provider, and so on. At the moment, we're not service providers, and we're not holding anybody's tokens for them. We don't really want to do that because that kind of changes the nature of it. And that's what would be necessary to set up a bridge to a lot of these other things.
Yeah.
So that's one reason. And another reason is that there are only so many tokens in the world. They're limited, and it's better to kind of concentrate the liquidity in Uniswap, for example, so that there isn't as much slippage when people make trades. If we were to have to take tokens out of Uniswap and make the liquidity there lower, so that we could start a new exchange on another chain, then the result of that would be that instead of having one high liquidity exchange, we'd have two low liquidity exchanges, and the prices would behave, worse than desired on both of these exchanges, instead of behaving a little bit closer to what's desired on the one exchange where the liquidity is concentrated. So it's true that we are feeling pressure to kind of expand to other blockchains, but there are big barriers that are there in the way that the liquidity, dividing the liquidity is one of them, and then the legal liability and becoming a custodial service is another one. So we're kind of resisting those pressures for the moment. What would be great would be if what's happening with Polygon with their proof of stake bridging system, if other EVM compatible blockchains were to do that with Ethereum and basically have a system where there was no need for legal liability when tokens are bridged from one chain to another. If that was to happen with other chains, then it would be very easy, and that would be great. I would love to see that happening, but at the moment it's just Polygon.
All right. Moving right along, my man Element asks, you guys mentioned wanting to maintain a presence outside of Discord, including other social medias like Twitter and Reddit, understandably so. Was your effort to maintain that presence a success? Alternatively, where do you guys currently stand with the social media outreach?
I think it's been a great success. For a long time, our Reddit was basically dead, and now we have community members who are doing amazing things. They're producing their own artwork. They're producing their own stories about seasonal tokens, their own insight into the project, and they're posting them there. Reddit is actually become a lot more alive than it used to be, and it's very good because not just. Obviously, it's good from the point of view of having a visible community, but the reason why having a visible community is good is that if the SEC looks at us and wants to say, is this a community or is this, a small group of people who are all doing everything, themselves, then when they see an active community and they see so much participation, then it's going to be very good.
Yes.
On Twitter as well. The problem with Twitter is that it's not as interactive as Reddit. You send a tweet, you get a few replies. I don't know if you could really talk about communities on Twitter. I mean, there are people who talk to each other on Twitter, but I don't know, it's not quite the same as it is on Reddit. I think Reddit has basically been better for showcasing the fact that we have a community. Twitter has been better for getting the word out, for making announcements about upcoming events and, attracting people, getting people to come to our Discord server and so on. So, I think they have different purposes.
All right. Element's second question. How do you guys feel the community response has been to the seasonal token concept and effort? I don't think he means like Wolves of Wall Street specifically, but I think he means the broader crypto community at large.
I think it's been very good. One thing that I have to say is that we've had zero criticism. There's never been a single article out there criticizing the tokens. There's never been anybody who said it won't work. There's never, well, actually, no. Once upon a time, when we started off, this was in just when mining started in 2001, we had one guy who turned up and said it wouldn't work. And he was brilliant. His name was Textile. And he turned up and he said, it's not going to work for this reason, that reason, that reason. And they were great reasons. It turns out that, he was wrong. He hadn't studied it enough and realized that we had actually solved those problems. But it was really valuable to get that perspective at that time. What we need is people coming up and telling us that it's not going to work and that it's all wrong, because basically so far it has been working. Everything has been okay, but we've had some commentary, we've had people talking about the tokens, and we've had some responses, but nobody has actually said this is bad, this is not going to work. Everybody has just said okay, and I see how it works now, or sometimes they've said I don't see how it works, but nobody's actually ever said this is bad. So I think we've basically had no criticism, and I was hoping that we would have a lot of criticism so that I could explain why the criticism is wrong, but it just never came.
Awesome. And with that, we shall move right along. Bullet Raj asks, how can the implementation of seasonal tokens within specific industries foster greater customer engagement and loyalty by capitalizing on the temporal nature of certain activities or events? Do you guys have any successful case studies or examples that could highlight the effectiveness of seasonal tokens driving user participation? Jeez, what a question.
That's quite a question. Yeah. So what I'd say is that it's early. It's still too early for like real applications in like for example traditional finance. But in the future, when you have things like the Bitcoin spot ETF that's currently being applied for by BlackRock and the other ETF applications, when we have things like that for seasonal tokens in the future, what it will mean is that if somebody has another asset that has seasonality in their price, like say for example you have an airline stock and it does very well in the summer and it does very poorly in the winter, what you would do is you would figure out what seasonal token is going to go up in price while your airline stock goes down in price, and then you could add that into your portfolio as a hedge. And that way what you could do is you could essentially use seasonal tokens as a traditional financial instrument to hedge against seasonality in the prices of other assets. So that means basically everybody who's managing a portfolio for a large corporation or as an asset manager, what happens is that the portfolio has predictable cycles, up and down cycles in it that have to do with, maybe there's agricultural products in there. Orange juice, for example, is more expensive in the winter than it is in the summer. That's because of the supply. But heating oil is more expensive in the winter than it is in the summer, and that's because of the demand. But basically, whatever other assets you have, there's going to be some seasonality in there. And what you can do is, if you have those, once seasonal tokens are traded on traditional asset exchanges in forms like ETFs, then it will be possible to use seasonal tokens to hedge the seasonality of these other traditional investments. And that means that essentially they'll have a use, they'll have, it won't necessarily be loyalty, it's like purely self-interest. What they say about the financial markets is that there's no love in financial markets. The only two emotions are greed and fear. So I think purely self-interested people who are either greedy or fearful could use seasonal tokens in traditional finance as a hedge. Once you get into like traditional financial markets, it's really true. It's really all about money, and there's no sense of loyalty there anymore. And there's no, there's only greed and fear, and they're not things to be ashamed of, because there's no shame in financial markets either. There's only greed and fear.
Alrighty. I can't ask that question. We've already answered that. Okay, moving on. Sammy asked a couple questions related to the Islamic financial aspect of the project. He says, I'm slightly confused as to how Islamic finance and the tokenization works. Essentially, what we discussed is, Sammy, when you and I were talking in the chat, we talked a little bit about the nuances of Islamic finance, and Sarge was also talking about that. And essentially, as Sammy wrote, not all cryptocurrencies are haram. If you search, there's division between scholars, as some say they're halal and some say they're haram. But if there's currency or anything that has intrinsic value backed with other currency, you'll get profits and losses. And obviously, loss is going to be what's termed halal. So as I wrote to Sammy, I said, this is the case because someone's on the losing side of that trade. In Islamic finance, ideally, we would be targeting there not to be a loser in this trade. So that should summarize that. And part of the way seasonal exists to try to remove losers from that side of the trading equation is that you're not trading coins for Bitcoin or coins for Ether or coins for cash. You're trading coins for more coins. You're trading spring for autumn, for instance.
Absolutely, yeah. So one thing on the Islamic finance compatibility part of it, what I can do is there's a document that I prepared for the auditors and for the people who did the screening, and I can post it in the seasonal AMA chat, so that anybody who wants to look at in detail about the Islamic finance compatibility considerations.
Yep, the dot's right there.
Yeah.
All right, cool beans. Okay, moving right along. Trying to keep this moving at a brisk pace. I really appreciate you guys spending the extra time. The questions are incredible. Anime for the World, my buddy asks, in how many projects are the developers and project owners involved in or have been involved in? So that's a provenance question.
Right. So I guess what I can say is that I was, in a sense, involved in Bitcoin. So I didn't contribute any code that's currently in the Bitcoin source code. But all the time throughout the time when Bitcoin was being developed, I was watching, I was taking the code, I was making modifications to it. I made a couple of different cryptocurrencies, basically, I don't know, starting from 2012 up until maybe 2016. This was when I was working in finance. I would be doing this kind of as a hobby. But I didn't release any of them. Well, I mean, I kind of like showed other people. I set up prototypes and I tested them and to see if they would work. One of them was a decentralized exchange that can trade Bitcoin. At the moment, Bitcoin can't be traded on decentralized exchanges. I've still got the code that I wrote for that kind of crypto project.
Not all decentralized exchanges. There's a couple. You can trade your layer 1 Bitcoin.
If it's decentralized exchange, then if it's a decentralized exchange, then you'll be able to trade wrapped Bitcoin on it. But no.
Well, hold on. This is where I get to educate you on something.
Sorry, if you're talking about cross-chain, are you talking about cross-chain atomic swaps? That is something that can be done. I was doing it with a way that wasn't done doing cross-chain atomic swaps. What I was doing was I created it was a peer-to-peer network in which what you would do if you wanted to trade Bitcoin is you would send a message to the peer-to-peer network saying you want a deposit address, and then the nodes in the network would each take so I don't know, do you know about elliptic curve cryptography and like points and public keys and private keys and that kind of thing?
I know a bit. I am an intermediate in that realm. There are users in the community who are experts at that. Okay. I am not the expert. I'm the tech intermediate.
Okay, that's perfect. So yeah, so basically the idea is that you can so an address has a public key, and you can kind of think of the address as being the same thing as the public key, even though it's slightly different. But the idea is that public keys can be added together. And if you have like two public keys, A and B, and they have two corresponding private keys that are like C and D, then if you add the public key A to the public key B, then you get a new public key, and the private key that corresponds to that is equal to C plus D. So if you add two public keys, then you get a new public key, and the corresponding private key is what you get when you add those private keys. So what I did was I set up a system where people could ask the network for a deposit address, and then lots of different nodes in the network would each produce parts of a public key, and they would remember parts of the private key, and they could then give you a deposit address by adding up all those public keys together. And the idea is nobody at all in the world would know what the private key is to this. The only way to know the private key would be to get all those nodes to give their little parts of the private key to somebody so that they could add all those parts together and then figure out what the key is. And then they could basically spend coins that were sent to that address. So the idea was that you would be able to trade Bitcoin on a decentralized exchange, not by sending the Bitcoin to somebody else, but rather by generating a key, like a deposit address that nobody knows the key for. And then once you would then have the right to withdraw the private key to that. But what you could send from one person to another, instead of sending them the bitcoins, you would send them the right to withdraw that private key. So then the idea would be like, I would deposit bitcoins into an address, and then I would say, now send this address to somebody else. So you could use it to send Bitcoin addresses rather than sending Bitcoins. And that would mean that you could trade Bitcoins without needing to have any infrastructure like wrapping them up in other tokens, or without having to do cross-chain atomic swaps. It would be kind of a decentralized exchange that would allow people to transmit not just Bitcoins, basically all of the tokens and all of the coins that exist are all pretty much using the same elliptic curve chain. Ethereum is using the same one as well, so it could be used for any things. I'm so sorry. I've just started talking about this. I just started talking about this completely different project. But yeah, you're asking what have I done before? I've spent some time working on other projects before, but Seasonal Tokens is the only one that I've done. Other projects I've brought them to the prototype stage, but decided that like it wouldn't be successful if I launched it because it would be too much work and it would probably fail. But Seasonal Tokens is the first one where I've thought, yes, I can do this. It's not too much work and it will probably succeed. And it's been working out pretty well so far.
All right. Moving on to the next question, we have Lurker Lamore, who asks, what is the need for the 4 different tokens? Isn't it possible for one token to manage the whole system?
Right, yeah, so I think we had a question about this earlier, but yeah, essentially the idea is that, yeah, if you want prices that cycle around each other, and if there's only one price, then there's nothing for it to cycle around.
Yep. All right, and that covers that. We'll go straight to Lurker's second question. She asks, the Discord server had fallen victim to a scammer link, which created some chaos. How did the team improvise the fix after the attack? And are investors' funds safe?
So investors' funds are safe. The attack actually, the damage that was done from the attack was to delete the message history that we had. We were able to recover everything else, all the user accounts, and nobody lost any money and so on. The hack. So the way that the recovery was done was, I think it was done through the use of Golden Bot. I don't know if Moof is here. Moof. Was he here? I don't know if he was. He was here earlier, but Moof was the team member who was really on top of it. He saw what was happening. He already had a bot that had been keeping backups of the server and that was able to restore everything. So he was basically the hero of that. And the team did a tremendous job pulling everything back together because we could have lost the entire server. So the person who did this, he hacked in. He said that he wanted $100 or else he would nuke the entire server. And he didn't even, if he had known about TipCC, he would have realized he could have gotten more than $100 from TipCC without having to do anything. But it was on a day that I think there were about 5 other Discord servers hacked on the same time using the exact same mechanism. So it was a pretty widespread attack. But luckily enough, we had a team that was talented enough to be able to recover everything.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna kind of blitz us through a few of these questions because we're like, I'm really hitting the wall on what would be the like maximum amount of time I feel comfortable keeping a team for an AMA. Like this, I didn't think I would ever hit the wall, but I'm hitting the wall. Okay, Fair Prince asks if you submitted your coins and crypto details to the Securities and Exchange Commission. We talked about that earlier. They're targeting a commodities designation, not a securities designation. All right. Arkela Kiyomi asks, staking is the new trend. Are there incentives for staking and various ways to earn the token? What staking options are available? There's multiple ways to earn. You can mine, you can purchase, or you can dollar cost average and trade up. You can also earn rewards through TipCC and seasonal events, such as the trading contest that we're going to have coming up. And as far as staking options, there is, as I understand it, there are liquidity farming options and pools you can park your coins in on both Ethereum and Polygon at the moment.
Absolutely. Yep, that's completely perfect.
All right. Do the token holders have a right to participate in governance? What kind of decisions could token holders vote on?
Right. Yeah. So I'm afraid that the answer is no. They're just commodities. They don't come along with any rights. If they came along with like a legal right to participate in a governance structure, then they would actually be securities.
Okay. Moving on, Abhishek asks a community support question and extending the community. We've already sort of gone over that, but it's an important question. Still glad you asked it. Tannen asks, will seasonal tokens plan on adding more chains because ETH is too expensive? Absolutely they are. They have to explore each chain individually, but they are certainly interested in adding more chains. Victo, my man, the man, the myth, the absolute shit poster. He asks, state channel / payment channel support with SHA-256 hash locking. Now, he is a guy who works with and in a way for another project. So that would be why he is asking the question. He is, in essence, looking for integrational capacity.
Okay, so I didn't hear a question.
The question is state channel. Like he's very blunt. This user is. He has a history of that. He simply writes state channel / payment channel support with SHA-256 hash locking ?
So.
Highly technical question.
I mean, I know what SHA-256 is. I state channel and payment channel. So yeah, I don't know. I don't actually understand the question. Sorry. You can just send transactions from one person to another. There are no payment channels. There are no.
Well, when he asks about state channel support, he's actually asking about a kind of a layer 2 integration. Essentially, is it going to be possible for there to be scaling, upscaling, like through Arbitrum or Connext, or I guess in Bitcoin's case, Bitcoin Lightning.
Right. Okay. Yes. So, yeah. Now, the thing is that they're ERC20 tokens, and it's very easy to deploy any infrastructure like that. On anything on any other layers. That's something that can be done just basically by plugging it in. Anything that can deal with ERC20 tokens is going to be able to deal with these tokens without any effort at all, without even any modification. You just have to tell them the contract addresses.
All right. Next question from Clutch. With what assets can the NFTs or tokens be backed with? I believe he's asking if there's any backing, like harder backing.
Absolutely, yeah. So the answer is that no, they're not redeemable for other things because they require work to produce. It's like the same reason why, if you see an artistic masterpiece or a big gem, you don't ask what is this redeemable for. You recognize that this thing itself took a lot of work to produce, and that means that it's not going to be cheap because it can't be produced at zero cost. It's the thing. The reason you would want something to be backed by something else is because it's produced at zero cost. Like if somebody gives you a piece of paper, then you'd say, what can I exchange this piece of paper for? Because this piece of paper is worth nothing. But when something requires a tremendous amount of work to produce, then it doesn't need to be redeemable for something else.
Hold on, I had to reply to my goober in the chat. All right. When are you gonna, how are you guys going to plan to target the bigger markets like the South Asian nations? He cites Pakistan and India as two ones that he's focused on.
Absolutely, no, that's great. I mean, we are looking at them. We've already got a lot of team members there. We've got our Sharia certification, and we're looking at moving in that direction. We're trying to expand basically our community and grow them by getting more people in from those regions. And I think the Sharia aspect of it is something that will make it attractive to those audiences.
I certainly don't disagree there. His final question, is the project completely decentralized? And if it is, how is it made user-friendly? And how is the privacy and data of people who are using the system protected from states and centralized exchanges?
Absolutely. So those are great questions. It's we're trying to make it as decentralized as it can be. I mean, we still have a team. We still have, I'm obviously we're here where it's not the case that everybody's on an exactly equal footing because, some people wrote the tokens and wrote the contracts and so on. But what we're doing is we're getting it to a stage where we're not, we're trying to make it so that people who buy the tokens are not investing in our performance, but are instead just buying a commodity. And I think there was another question that was there that
it's basically just a data protection question. Like, how is
absolutely, yeah. So the thing is, like, all of the transactions that happen with the tokens are publicly visible on the Ethereum blockchain. There's no real expectation of privacy because this is a public ledger. Yeah, and it's always possible for somebody to use blockchain analysis to try to discover your identity. What you can do if you want to protect your privacy is you can, whenever you're doing something with an address and you don't want it to be traced to your real identity, you go to a centralized exchange, you generate a new Ethereum address or a new address on Polygon. You go to a centralized exchange and you withdraw Matic or ETH from that centralized exchange to this freshly generated address. And then people who are looking at the blockchain history will be able to see this. The only thing that they'll know about this address is that it received funds from an exchange, and they won't be able to discover your identity. That's the best thing that can be done, when you're dealing with a public blockchain, to try to protect your identity and your financial information.
All right. Okay, now the goobers are in my DMs. Get out of my DMs, goobers. All right. We're on the second to last question docket from Fikret GNDZ. He asks, the cycles in the prices are irregular, and the value of one of them will indeed be very low compared to the others. Are there any measures being taken to address the differential? This, like similar questions before, I'm not sure the team has the power to take mechanistic impact and measure to deal with that. It's kind of governed by the halving mechanism.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. So what we've done is we're not kind of managing this as a system that's running for other people. It's more like a device that we've built and we've turned it on. And we're no longer, maintaining it or editing it. We have no power. We've deliberately taken away all the power that we could have over it because we want it to be decentralized, and we don't want any person to have any more power than anybody else.
All right, and our final questions from Mudhorn. We got to you late. Apologies for that. How does seasonal we already talked about safeguarding and security and audits. The second and final question, can you guys provide details on the specific ERC20 tokens that Seasonal focuses on for its shifting rewards? How are these tokens selected and what factors are considered? I believe this is a question in reference to what chains you can trade the tokens for.
I guess.
Like ETH and Polygon kind of thing?
They're on ETH and Polygon. I mean, the ideal vision of what you would be doing with seasonal tokens is to entirely stay within the seasonal token system. So, you start off with a small number of tokens and you build it up to a large number of tokens over time. Just by trading
and then
tokens
theoretically, if you needed to exit, right, you could then go into Ether or Polygon as needed. Or I guess another chain if it was expanded.
Exactly, yeah. And or USDT if you're on one of the centralized exchanges, definitely, yeah.
Excellent, guys. With that, we've reached the Allah have mercy. We have reached the end of the question portion, which means it is now time to prepare for the trading contest, and I must ask that the visiting team please examine the pins for this channel, for the Seasonal AMA chat channel, because in order to make the awards fair, I don't pick the winners. We at the team of Wolves of Wall Street, we don't pick the winners unless you guys tell me you want me to. So in that sense, I always offer the team the option to pick the winners. I was originally planning on having 5 winners, but we have so many questions that I think it's best if we do 10. Does anybody have any issues with that?
I have no problem with that at all, but I will need a few minutes to set up the trading contest.
No problem.
if Polar, Dromicat, Haltimer, if they would like to take over this part of it for me, that would be absolutely brilliant.
Brief intermission while we get ready for the trading contest. But while we're getting that ready, I'm asking the team members from Seasonal to go through the questions and to select users who you feel asked absolutely stellar questions that are worthy of reward. That is the stipulation.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think there have certainly been a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
The questions have been great. This has basically been the best AMA we've ever done, and it's really been a pleasure. It's been grueling and long, but I just want to thank Nexus and thank everybody. It's really been great.
It's been my pleasure. I'm so proud of, honestly, what you guys are doing is really impressive. I'm so proud of my community for the way they engaged with this project and asked the questions. You guys are absolutely slaying it out here, and you're showing the value of what we do and who we are at the Wolves of Wall Street, and I couldn't be more proud.
No, we're really grateful that we could do that as well. Thank you so very much.
Yes, and this recording, this whole event has been captured on live stream. We're still running live right now, but as soon as it's trading contest time, I'll be switching the live stream up. I will continue streaming, but it'll be trading contest time. We're going to be playing with the token sim.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
talk everybody's in.
Yeah, sorry, Ron. You can take care of the trading contest. So I hope that everybody hears me.
Yes, sir. We hear you nice and clear.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm currently working on picking the great questions. Honestly, it's pretty hard.
It's so hard, brother. This is why
Yeah.
this is the hardest part of the show. I say this every time. Every time I get here, this is the worst. Honestly, it is the worst part of the show because everyone in this community is kicking so much ass that I want to give everybody. But I have to pick 10. We have to lock it down to 10 winners.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much for giving me this responsibility. And
yeah, this is how I avoid bias. And any users who honestly, like, if they were DQ'd, disqualified for any reason, I would have let you guys know. The community was incredibly well behaved today, and there are no DQs that I can cite.
yeah,
So I'm very proud of them for that.
I think
it makes
they
total
have been
sense.
hypnotized, like Ruan says.
Yeah, it gets that way.
Possible.
It gets that way. And honestly, like, it's the crew who asked the questions here, as I told you guys in the private chats, like, everyone has a diverse knowledge base, and they put it all on display right here. This is where you get to see the true diversity of the knowledge in the asking and answering of these questions. Because if the users were, I'm just going to be real, if these users were not bright, like I know they are, they wouldn't be asking you killer questions like that. And this would be a very easy component of my show. Oh, this guy. All right, there's our winners. But the fact that the community is truly excellent is what makes this honestly grueling. Like, if you guys thought it was grueling answering the questions, now we got to pick winners. This is a really grueling part.
Yeah, absolutely. Just it's hard for me to talk and also picking the winners, but I'm trying.
No worries.
So, very important thing to mention, and I'll continue adding more members to win. So something that I think we missed to mention, and it's important, and only those that are still with us will find this out, and it is that there are actually going to be additional prizes for those that participate in the trading contest and win the top 3 spots. What I mean by that is you have seen that the trading simulator gives you the opportunity to trade tokens for more tokens, and actually you are increasing your investment value, and you can see it inside the trading simulator was the value that you have generated. And what we're going to do is that the 3 people that have the highest score, the highest investment value that they can achieve during this 1 hour of trading contest will win our prices, and they are like, for the first one, the person with the highest score, he or she will get 1,000 of each type of the tokens. Second one will get 500 for each type of the tokens, and the third one will get 300 for each type of the tokens. And for this 1 hour, you can actually pay as many times as you want. And actually, it's pretty easy. We're going to share a link, join the channel, where actually the competition is going to happen. And in this channel, you just have to type a very, very simple message in order to start the trading competition. To start the simulator, which is, I see some people have already trying, which is TB !play. And this will trigger our bot, which will give you a link to the simulator. And you go to the simulator, you play the simulator, which takes approximately 10 minutes, if I'm not wrong. And your goal is to trade tokens for more tokens and to get the highest possible score. And when you finish with these 10 minutes, the simulator will send your score to our bot, and the bot will write your result here. And the great thing is that we actually have a leaderboard, which is already integrated in the bot, so you can easily see who is leading the board. So in the end of this 1 hour, the top 3 guys or gals, or whoever it is, will win the prizes that I just mentioned.
Excellent.
I hope that I have been clear.
Excellent. Yep, that's what we needed.
Okay. I need a few more minutes to pick the winners.
No problem, boss. We got 10 winners for this show.
Yeah, so should I post it inside a seasonal AMA chat, or where should I post them? Winners, I mean.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes.
So where should I post the winners?
If you want, you may DM me, or you can start typing them out in the AMA chat, because I'm making a list. I always make a list to save for posterity.
Okay, these are the winners. I just send them to you in DM because I have already prepared them to send it to you.
Excellent. Excellent.
Do you see all of them? Because I see that one of them is...
Yes. I see our winners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hey, excellent. All right. 10 winners chosen. All right. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to make my list right now. Those of you on Twitch, you're getting an advanced look at our winners. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, and when we're ready, when Arwan says that he's ready with the trading contest, I'll share the link directly to the channel where the trading competition is going to happen, so everybody can join there.
Excellent. And there they are. These are our winners for today's question and answer portion of the AMA. You guys all won 10 Binance dollars. Congratulations. You guys kicked ass. Every single one of those was deserved. Every single one. You will get no resistance on a single one of those from me. Absolutely legendary. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And with that, we are chilling while we are readying up the seasonal token contest with more rewards. So stick around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here hanging out and continuing to live stream because I'm participating. Although I still need to I'm wrestling with the verification mechanisms.
Yeah, after the hack that has happened, actually we decided to put much more verification and security measures, so something like this
Yes.
don't happen again in the future.
Yes, I don't blame you one iota, boss man. It is the smart money move.
So yeah, if you're ready, in that case, Ruan, just let us know when you're ready, and I'll share the link in the seasonal AMA channel, and then I suppose Nexus, if it is possible for you, you can track 60 minutes, and then in the end of these 60 minutes, the contest will be over.
Yep, no problem. We'll start a timer when it is appropriate to do so. Excellent.
Perfect.
What an awesome event. Thank you guys so much. Everybody on Twitch who joined us. There were like a dozen plus people at some point on Twitch watching us. Thank y'all. I might not be saying much on Twitch, but I'm watching. Thank you guys for watching on that platform. We appreciate the attention. This has been Seasonal Tokens here at the Wolves of Alt Street. My name is Nexus. It has been my honor, privilege, and pleasure to be your host for this program. We'll be cutting this portion of the live stream, but another live stream will be coming up shortly because, as I said, I'm sticking around because I am participating in the trading contest. I believe I passed server verification, but it's not letting me in still. I'm not sure what the deal is. That's okay though. We'll get it figured out. Excellent. Thank you everybody for your attention and participation.
And if you allow me, while we are waiting for the next stream, from the name of the whole team of Seasonal Tokens, to thank you very much for this opportunity and these amazing questions, to the amazing community that you have, and also to you, Nexus. You have been an amazing host. Honestly, I have been on dozens of AMAs, and this was the most meaningful and thoughtful AMA that I have ever been on.
I'm actually kind of in tears right now. I really appreciate that because I put in a lot of effort. The team puts in a lot of effort, and we really appreciate that because we don't put out any stops for anybody, and it's really humbling to hear, especially coming from a team as honestly as prestigious as this one. One of your developers is a Forbes listed prestigious individual for the year of 2022. So this has been truly an honor and a privilege.
Definitely
Yeah.
deserved.
Thank you again for everyone in the community. It really has been a pleasure, and I second Ruan and Polar. This has been very insightful. And the amount of questions that we asked and the type of questions really gave, I hope, a lot of good insight to everyone in your community. And I hope we'll see a lot of the faces that are here with us in Seasonal Tokens. And I'll probably make sure to do my best to support everyone, to reward everyone for their contributions. And yeah, we'll see how it goes from there.
Absolutely.
So,
and in the future, as you guys expand, develop, and things get further along, I'd love to have you guys back for more. Because I'm all about getting people to come back and talk about what's changed and what's been going on in big interim time gaps. Absolutely excellent. All right. With that, folks, I will be stepping away briefly myself just to take care of a couple things, namely use the restroom and refill my beverage container. But I will be back shortly to wrestle with the seasonal token verifier and get my ass in a trading contest.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. So yeah, I've got the trading contest almost ready to go. So I've set it up to start 5 minutes from now. If people can go to our Discord server, there's a trading contest beginners channel there, and yeah, if you turn up there, and I'll post some instructions in that channel, and I can start the contest basically anytime now. So I think we're ready to go.
Yep, and all
Should
members
I share
who
the link?
you may.
Yeah, if you could send the link, that'd be brilliant. Yeah.
You may. It's oh shit. I was worried that might happen. I apologize. One moment.
No problem at all.
Yeah, that's a common occurrence with our security mechanisms due to the constant Discord spamming. So apologies on that.
I see.
Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Okay, he posted a link and then was banned for posting a link. Okay,
No worries. It's a Discord server invite link. Anytime that happens, that's what's going to do it. Pass the link to our guy Fish or to Cyber Unicorn. They should be able to post the link, or I guess I myself could also do it. We should have the perms that will get that in. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem. Okay, yeah.
There we go.
Stuff. I will. Have you got it?
All right. Yep, we got the link in. All right. I shall be back briefly. And yeah, I'll be back shortly. I'm going to put on some crypto-themed elevator music for us. Just a couple minutes.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah, I wish I could roll back time to that old Silk Road. I wanna hold until I can't no more. I'm gonna add crypto to my portfolio. I wanna hold until I can't no more. I got my crypto coming back.